Montrell, episode 300. Did you ever think we would make it this far?
Actually, I'm not surprised. We've been
No?
very consistent
Okay.
with this. Yeah, we've been
Yeah,
very
we
consistent.
are. I honestly, I am extremely proud of us from the sense of, yeah, the show's not huge. We don't have like a giant audience or anything, but that's really not that important to me anymore. Like, it's like we just have a good, I feel like we just have a good thing here, good setup.
Yeah,
We do
yeah.
the show, we do this well together. Like, this is the part that me and you do really well together. It's some of the other stuff behind the scenes that we're both kind of just like,
Well, it's just that we're so fucking busy,
we're
bro.
so
Like,
busy. I know. No, it's just like the show, though. We're really consistent with the show. Like we
yeah.
like outside of what Thanksgiving, which we are voluntarily taking that off now.
Yeah.
Like one of the holidays every year. Outside of that, we've missed what 2 weeks or 1, 2? I think it might be 2.
Did
all
we
time.
miss?
No, remember we famously missed our 3rd week. Because we were both like super fucking sick or something. We couldn't do it. We were doing it in person at the time, and we were both like super sick. And then I can't remember another week though where we actually missed an episode. I'm trying to think.
I believe that's the only week we missed an episode.
Because
I
there
remember
was some
that
close.
week,
There were some close calls, but it never actually happened.
Yeah. No, that was the only week I remember. Yeah, because we were like, wasn't like the flu going around or something?
Yes, we both had the flu. Yeah, no, we both had the flu. Yeah, I remember being bedridden and I was pissed. I was like, fuck, man, this new podcast venture, I'm already fucking it up, That's what I was thinking at the time.
Nah, I made a promise to myself. I was just like, I'm gonna be consistent. Like my whole thing, this show actually helped me be consistent in a lot of things.
Yeah. Me too, dude.
And
me too.
Yeah, it's very therapeutic as far as that. Like now for the last about 6 months, I've been going. I mean, I started podcast like 5 years ago, but now I've been going to the gym like consistently, and I keep it on the schedule along with the podcast and everything. So it's just like a lot of other things too. It's just been like it's been really really helpful and everything in that regard. So I don't know. Like I said, whether we get big or not, like if I had more money just from like my job, which I plan on doing, like, get more money and getting the promotion and everything like that. Like I can probably start paying people to like promote us, but it's just like as of right now, like both of us are focused on other things. I would like the podcast to be big, not because I want to make money off of it, but because I do want to communicate with other people, a lot more other people.
Yeah. I would love the show to have more audience interaction, right? That's that is the one thing I think if we ever had a bigger audience that I'd want more of. I'd actually think if we had a bigger audience too, it'd be like I'd be more encouraged to stream more.
Yeah.
Right now it's just like in my head I want to stream some games, but it's like I'm just streaming to random people, It's like it's just gonna be like luck of the draw. So I don't know. It's but hey, we're here. We're still gonna be here. We have no plans of going anywhere. So it's 300 episodes. I'm happy we got here. I'm honest, like seriously, I'm very proud of the fact that we have this many episodes. Like doing something for 6 years every week consistently for 3 hours every Thursday is, that's a commitment, man, amongst our other life commitments. So especially now we're both married, we got I got a house. You guys live in a house, right? Yeah, and it's like, there's responsibilities that come with that too. So I'm very proud of what we accomplished here. So all right, enough navel gazing. Let's get into the show, I guess, proper, Montrell. How's your week otherwise outside of
Man, I'm not gonna lie, this week has been extremely slow. I don't know what it is about this
I totally agree. I'm like, dude, it felt like Friday yesterday, and it's like,
yeah, man.
I'm like, man, I got 2 more days to go to the weekend. Like, holy fuck, bro.
Yeah, this week has been extremely fucking slow. I called off on Tuesday, I think it was.
Yeah.
I just wasn't feeling too good, so I called off. And yeah, it's just, for me personally, it's like I had a really, really busy week last week. I had to deploy one of our biggest job sites and I planned it out so well. First of all, I hate when my job does this. Like they scare the fuck out of me. Like this is the biggest job site ever, and the higher ups are looking at it, Montrell. You gotta get everything right. So I've been playing this job site for like 2 months, and I planned it so well, Justin, that
Yeah.
I was surprised that everything went off without like nothing going wrong.
Yeah.
And I was just like, so once I got done, like I only needed help with the job site with my coworkers for one day, and then everything else I did by myself.
Yeah.
And so once I got done with the job site, like the hype just died down, like my adrenaline went down, everything went down.
Yeah.
So this was that week where everything just went down, and now I'm in limbo. I'm like just doing regular desktop support work now and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just been a really slow week too because people are taking vacation, especially next week. Everyone's gonna be out next week.
Yeah, and the week
'cause
after, and
the week after. Yep.
Oh yeah, you guys are out though, aren't you? You guys
Yeah.
like get
So we get that week off between Christmas and New Year's, but even before that week, usually around the 15th, the middle of the December, a lot of people just start disappearing. Like the parking lot is empty around this time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't know. It's just been a really slow week though.
Yeah, it has for me too. I remember like on Tuesday I finished with work that day and I was like, dude, it's only Tuesday. I'm like, I got 3 more days to go. What the fuck? You know, so it's definitely been one of those weeks. For sure. Well, let's just get into the rest of the show proper here. We got a lot to talk about. We got the Game Awards literally starting in I think 12 minutes from where we are in recording right now. So let's just get in and get started. So this is Players Take episode 300. I'm your host Justin DeSimone, joined as always by my co-host Montrell Rice. This is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And if you'd like to send us questions, you can do so on Twitter at The Players Take, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. All right, Malcho, let's get into the show. I wanted to start, though, with the PlayStation Wrapped. This came out on the 10th. I think it was a couple days ago, Tuesday. Have you actually gotten a chance to do anything with this? Because it was fucking down for like 2 days.
Yeah, I was able to do it the night before last.
Okay.
Yeah, I was able to do it as soon as it came out, or I saw somebody else tweet it about it, or I'm actually on Blue Sky now. I don't really get on Twitter anymore, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw somebody tweet it on Blue Sky, and yeah, I did it, and yeah, my most played game was Dragon Age Veilguard. I had 67 hours in that game.
Okay. So I played, this is on PlayStation. So I will say, I think my time was pretty split between PC and PlayStation this year. I played a lot of games on PC. So, but I played 14 games on PlayStation. My number one game was Unicorn Overlord at 111 hours.
111 hours?
Yes,
holy
dude,
shit.
this is what I was talking about when I was talking about this game. This game was way too fucking long. Like, it legitimately was. I don't know if 111 is the real time, but it's around the 100 mark for sure.
Did you get a platinum in that game or no?
Yes, I did get the platinum.
That's probably why you got all that time in it then.
Then Rebirth, 81 hours. Did not get the plat for that game. Then Grand Blue Fantasy Relink at 60 hours played. And then Stellar Blade, 36 hours. Didn't get the platinum there either. Then Vampire Survivors at 34 hours. What's number 5? I think Metaphor is over this at this point. It just hasn't shown up as part of the wrap thing. So, because I'm my game clock is showing me around 50 right now for Metaphor. So, but yeah, and then Prince of Persia was the first game I played of the year, and that was one of the bigger ones I played. And then what was the other thing I was? Oh, my total hours. Yeah. So total hours played was 468 hours, which is a lot lower than I thought it would be. Honestly, I was like thinking about this. I was like, because I remember last year, I thought it was around 1,000 last year or something like that, dude. But that's what made me think about PC though. I know I put a shitload of hours on PC this year, so I probably split my time a lot more between the two than I did last year. But I will say, Montreal, I was very happy to see. I had forgotten that I did not play Genshin Impact at all this year, so I was very happy by that fact that I did not boot the game up one fucking time. So that is a positive to come out of the year for sure. So, um, but yeah. What about you? Did you do you have your statistics or
Yeah, so I don't know how to do PC. I wish there was a way. Like I know League of Legends probably did a year in play, and I know majority of my time, unfortunately, this year was playing League of Legends.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but let me pull up my stats real
Oh,
quick
Steam has a
here.
year in review.
I
Oh,
know
it's
my
not
Steam.
out yet. It doesn't.
It's
It's
not
not
out
out
yet.
for. It's out for. It says 2023.
Okay.
Um, so I'm sure they'll have
Yeah.
one though for
So
2024 soon.
I played 24 games, got 300 trophies. I have 431 hours played. And I have 57 multiplayer hours played.
Okay.
Um,
Oh yeah, Helldivers.
yeah, so I think Helldivers is my most played multiplayer game
Yeah.
this year. So it's okay, these are like I thought these were games I played, but yeah, I put 48 hours. Oh no, actually I put 69 hours into Helldivers. I put 73 hours into Rise of Ronin. Stellar Blade came up with 18 hour. Oh, actually 18 plus 17, which that 48, 45,
Wait,
45, I
18
think.
plus 17, 35.
Yeah, 35. So 35 hours in Stellar Blade, and then I played a couple hours of Near, and then Black Myth Wukong. I have 21 hours plus 20. Oh, it splits it up. So around 46, 47 hours in Black Myth Wukong
Okay.
and 39 hours in Metaphor.
Yeah.
And then 67 played hours in so I think they counted they say played hours and then time logged in. So I don't know how they count that. So
Yeah.
I just put
Well,
all of that.
I don't know. Yeah, because I mean, it counts game time where your console's on and you're not doing anything. So
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot I even played Grand Blue Fantasy this year. It's a I played that and beat that game. I was like, I beat that game? I don't even remember beating that game.
Well, it was
Um
really short from what you remember. It was like
yeah,
10 hours to beat.
so but yeah, I think it was an okay year. I tried to get through a lot more games. I'm actually kind of disappointed. I wish I could have beat a lot more games this year. I think
Yeah.
I'm going to focus more on PlayStation as far as like just playing a lot more games, and
Mhm.
maybe my Switch, or if the Switch 2 come out, the Switch as well. Um,
Well,
I'm going to try to ease.
we both know March is going to be a dead zone for anything. So
Yeah,
once
yeah.
X comes out, so
I think I'm gonna I think I say this now, but I am going to try to hold myself to it. I think I'm just going to like I'm gonna try to chill out on League. Probably only play it on the weekends or something like that.
yeah.
Um, because
We did
yeah,
play
I
a
just
lot. There were periods where we did play a lot of League this year. I
yeah,
will say
yeah.
that's definitely like I don't have that. I probably don't have that on Steam, obviously. So it's like I don't know how to see those numbers, but I know in the summer for sure there was a long period of time we were playing League like almost every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
So
yeah, I'm kind of with you though. I was like, dude, I saw my numbers and I was like, 14 games. That's all I played this year on PlayStation, and it's like, yeah, I guess that's true. When I started looking through them, I was like, I started the year off pretty hot, I think, and then I kind of slowed down quite a bit after May, I'd say.
mhm.
Um, so because yeah, the summer was kind of quiet. There weren't a lot of games. There weren't really a lot of games I was interested in that came out in the summer. So
Yeah, I don't know. This year was like an okay year. I actually forgot I played Stellar Blade this year. I forgot about Black Myth Wukong this year. I don't know. It's just like if you were to force me to ask what's the game of the year for me personally, I would probably be like maybe it's a toss up between Stellar Blade, um, Metaphor, or Space Marine 2.
Yeah.
Like those are uh I would say Dragon Age as well. Dragon Age has ups and downs for me though, and
Yeah.
so did Stellar Blade. But like I thoroughly enjoyed every part of Space Marine 2. And then I so far I haven't finished Metaphor, but I've enjoyed almost every part of Metaphor.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, those would be like my top two. Um it's just it's hard. I know like you know this is not the game of the year discussion or whatever, but I don't even think we're gonna have that. Are we gonna have that episode this
Oh, we
year or
will.
no?
Yeah. No, we
Okay.
definitely will.
Yeah, but I don't
Remember
know.
though, it's not. We don't do like we just talk about the games we enjoy. We don't do like a ranking or anything like that. So
Yeah. So I don't know. I know a lot of people, not just you, but a lot of people put Stellar Blade as their number one, or Final Fantasy 7 as their number one. And for me personally, I dropped Final Fantasy 7 at chapter 4, and I know I need to go back and play it. It gets better after that chapter.
yeah,
Um, but I dropped it, and I just haven't looked back at it for some reason. Stellar Blade was it was a solid 8 for me, like a real solid 8.
yeah,
So was Dragon Age. Dragon Age was a really solid 8, but for me, Space Marine was just like a 9.5. I enjoyed. It was a nice, clear, concise story, action, multiplayer, and everything of that nature. And I just loved it for like the 15 hours that it gave me, and then the replayability that it has, where I can just
yeah,
dive into it, play it, and then jump out. So yeah, that's personally my game of the year. Black Myth Wukong to me, it's a 7.5, and the only reason I give it a 7 is because while very fleshed out, level design was really cool and everything of that nature, it still had a lot of issues that I personally think needed to be fleshed out. Um, and if they do make another game within that franchise, hopefully they correct the issues that the first game had. It just had a lot of really weird things going on with it,
hmm
that I wasn't a fan of. In particular, like I hate when you make bosses. I don't mind difficult bosses, but I hate when you make bosses difficult for no fucking reason. Like that's how I felt with some of the bosses. Like there was no reason for it to be that hard. Also, like the flow of the game was really weird. Once I did get the flow of the game, I was like, okay, I got it, but it still had a really bad rhythm, in my opinion. And a lot
yeah,
of people don't understand that rhythm is a really key component in like action games and stuff like that, which is like another reason that it held Stellar Blade Black for me was
yeah,
it had a really good rhythm, but it wasn't even the bosses; it was just the mechanics. Like every time you perfect parry, slow down. I'm like, don't do that for
yeah,
me.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I think it was a really solid year for games. I don't think anything was like people say this is a horrible year. I don't really think it was a horrible year. I think it was a really solid year for
yeah.
games in general.
I
So
think it was solid. I mean, I don't really know what I would say my like game of the year is like number one. It's probably between Stellar Blade and like Prince of Persia for me. I'm like I don't know. We'll get into metaphor in a bit, but some recent developments in the game are it might be falling down the ranking a little bit for me right now. So I don't know. I got to beat the whole game though before I really say that definitively. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. It just there was a lot of solid games this year. I just don't think there was anything that like blew my fucking mind though. You know, realistically, like Stellar Blade.
yeah,
I personally enjoyed Stellar Blade a lot, right? But I agree
yeah,
with your score. I would give it an 8 if I were reviewing it. But I really like the game. You know, it's like I like it more than that score indicates. You know, it's kind of a weird thing to say. It's um like my opinion of it probably should mean that I would give it a 9, but it's like object like looking at it from like a top down view between other games, it's not in that it's really not in that realm, right? I don't think it's a 9. So it's like it's kind of a weird thing, you know. I'm like separating my own enjoyment factor from like reviewing it, you know, giving it a review. But so yeah, I don't know. It's like it's probably between Metaphor, that, and Prince of Persia as my like top three. I think last year was probably a better year overall for
yeah,
games, but at least for me personally. But I mean, I'm saying that though. There's a lot of shit I didn't even play this year. You know, I didn't play Black Myth Wukong. I didn't play I didn't play Dragon Age. There's a bunch of stuff I haven't played yet. So I think this is the thing, though. What this shows me is 14 games on my PlayStation, and like it's this is kind of getting back to the point, and we're going to talk about this later with one of the news stories we have, but it just continues to hammer home for me how annoying game length has become, that there's just too many games that are 100 hours. Like I just like you can't play them all. Like I can't play them all, you know? It's fucking irritating because I'm playing Metaphor right now, and I was playing Baldur's Gate last week, and I haven't touched Baldur's Gate because I'm kind of just like I want to focus on Metaphor and get this game over with.
Mhm.
I think I'm in the back third of it maybe at this point, or I'm getting towards that point in the game, and I kind of want to get it finished, and then I'm gonna go back to Baldur's Gate, because these games are just too long. Like they're both like 80, 100 hour games, both of them, and it's like
Yeah, I
it's too
just
much.
a- and I think that's why I've been like, if you're gonna look when we get to the games we're playing, I think that's why I've been playing like some relatively short games that I can just jump in and play.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, because like I don't know, at risk of sounding like old man, which we are, it's just I think games are like way, like you said, way too fucking long, man. Like Dragon Age was a slog for me because as good as that game was, I was ready for that game to end like 20 hours ago. You know,
yeah,
like it's
yeah,
been
yeah,
67
yeah.
hours, though.
Yeah, I'm
And
I'm hitting that point with Metaphor already, dude. And I'm 50 hours in. I'm kind of like, it's like this fourth area that you go to is like really dragging for me a little bit. I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm ready for the plot to move forward and things to happen. It's like it continues to just meander a little bit. It's like so.
yeah, and that's what Dragon Age was doing as well. Like, yeah, it just meander, and you would have to force the plot to go forward if you want to. But I also want to do all the character side missions and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't know, it got to the point where like with other games, I just got annoyed because like stories aren't if the story isn't as good, and I'll get to it in the games we're playing. But yeah, that,
well, let's
I
just
get to it
transition
later.
into it.
Oh
This
yeah.
was just this
So
was a
uh,
icebreaker. So yeah, let's just get into what we're playing.
yeah, so I was playing Astro Chain, and I just think I don't have the patience for this game. I got
Oh
so I
no.
played this game.
Yeah,
I had 15 to 20 hours logged into this game before I restarted my save file because I couldn't remember how to play the game.
yeah,
Because it doesn't have complicated controls, but it's not the average platinum game action game controls or whatever. Like
yeah,
you attack with the
yeah,
right trigger and you control your I forgot what they fucking call those things. Your chimera, control your chimera with with one button and then the other analog stick so you can do combos and stuff like that.
yeah,
So it's a really weird game. Um, but I'm playing the game and I just don't give a fuck about the story. And this game forces the story onto you. Like they were actually trying to build a universe with this game, I can tell. Um,
yeah,
I can see where the money came in from Nintendo. Like, hey, I want you guys to actually try and build like a game for us or whatever, a
yeah,
franchise. Um, and this game just wasn't it. I think the action's okay. I think it's held back by the fucking story. The early game, I forgot how fucking annoying it was. Because it's not the true early game. It is it. So you have this, for instance, you get this dodge at the beginning of the game where you like do a kind of like a step back, but it's
yeah,
not the true dodge of the game. But the game kind of treats it like that. And then once the story progresses, like, and not when I say story progress, like maybe 3 hours ahead or whatever, 3 or 4 hours ahead, then you get the true dodge because you unlock your chimera power or whatever the fuck it is, and you guys are in sync, and then you can do like sweet dodges and like perfect dodges and other stuff like that, and time slows down, and it's like, why are you doing that? Like I don't. It's so weird because they never did this with any other game but this game. Like
yeah,
Platinum Games never did this before, where like they tried to lock. Well, I mean, locking stuff behind the narrative is always in action games, Mega Man games, all that type of shit. But it was just so weirdly done in this game that I fucking hated it. And on top of that, the story's not the best, in my opinion. So I'm coming off of like games that had really good stories, and I'm just like, I don't give a fuck about this shit. And on top of that, the story is taking itself seriously. I think Platinum Games does really well when they're taking like almost a comedic effect with their games.
yeah,
Um, So I mean, I was playing Metaphor and I'm playing Scarlet Nexus, which has a really good story and everything of that nature. Then I'm coming off Control, which I finished. Great game, by the way. Not too much to say about Control, but if you like Alan Wake, it's in the Alan Wake universe. It is Quantum Break as well. And Control are all in the same universe. Max Payne was going to be in that universe, but it's not. Spoiler alert, like the book that Alan Wake is writing, because he's an author in his game, and the book that he's writing about, or one of the books that he's writing about, is actually Max Payne, but they can't say Max Payne because those rights are owned by Rockstar. But that same company that made Control, Alan Wake, and everything like that, Remedy Games, they made Max Payne 1, 2, and 3. But they can't call it Max Payne. But he obviously wrote Max Payne or whatever. So Max Payne was supposed to be the start of this universe and be a book from Alan Wake, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so I think their cinematic universe is really interesting. It has some very interesting concepts, like very interesting. It kind of reminds me of, like, at risk of sounding crazy, it kind of reminds me of like a Severance type storyline. It's the monsters you face and the enemy of this. It's like, because of, like, it's not even because of demons. It's like other realm quantum stuff, physics type shit, and it's like really interesting what they're doing with the story. So I do recommend Control. It is free for PlayStation Plus people. I do recommend that game. It's really fun to play. And yeah, especially if you played Alan Wake and stuff like that, I think it's really fun, and you'll see the connection and stuff like that to Alan Wake.
I gotta get into these series, man. I feel like I would like these games, but I don't know. I've never been super interested in them.
They're hard to get into. I will admit that. Alan Wake in particular it's like it's a horror game, but it's not a horror game as in, like, zombies and stuff like that. It's like one of those psychological thriller horror games, almost like akin to Silent Hill, but not as violent as Silent Hill. You don't get chopped up in bodies and stuff like that. It's just like it's a really decent story. A lot of people didn't get into Alan Wake because I forgot the Alan Wake itself. The first game was actually an episodic game. You remember back in the 360 and PS3 days, they were doing that a lot. And then Alan Wake 2 came out. That was an actual full game, obviously. In Control, that was a full game and everything like that. Quantum Break was a PlayStation or an Xbox exclusive game. Not a lot of people played it. It was bad when it got first released, but they patched it up since then. But the damage was already done when it got released. So yeah, but I think the cinematic universe, Quantum Break rather, was also that game that did the TV show alongside the game every week thing as well. So they were really trying something new, which I respect. And I think Remedy Studios has like real talent. They're a really talented studio. They're underrated studio in my opinion. I think they're like a level, if given the chance and the right budget, they'll be like a level under Naughty Dog, if not the same level, if they get the same amount of money and quality, that they can get. But yeah, we get back to like Astral Chain and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to finish this game. I got really far in the game and I dropped it for some reason, and I'm trying to get back into it, and it's just not an interesting story. I see why this game didn't hit with a lot of people. I know like action games don't need the best story to play action games, but I feel like this game locks you behind a lot of bullshit, and it's just not. Honestly, it's not fun to play. Like I wasn't having fun playing the game. It's a good action game once you learn the controls. I just don't want to wrap my head around the controls. The controls are really weird. It's probably going to be one of those games like ahead of its time with the controls, like God Hand was back in the day. But as of right now, I feel like I'm not into it. I got to be in the right headspace. So then I started playing. I was like, maybe I just don't like platinum games, action games anymore. So I started playing Bayonetta 3, and I immediately fell in love with this game. I remember I shitted on this game the first time, but man, this game is really fucking fun. It's a fun game, has a clear story, doesn't take itself too seriously, and I don't know. I love that about Bayonetta, even Bayonetta 3. Um, and yeah, I mean, I still have some gripes with the other character, Viola, not her actual character or her arc. It's just the controls are really weird. Uh, it's not. It's just two buttons. She has a parry mechanic that she uses to slow down to do witch time, and it's way different from like Bayonetta herself, which is a dodge, and the parry buttons on a different button than the dodge and stuff like that. So, um, I don't know. That I don't like, but everything else surrounding the game, I think is a really cool game. I think they have a clear vision. They had a clear vision with Bayonetta, whereas Astral Chain, they had a vision, but they took themselves too seriously. And unfortunately, I don't think they know. This is going to sound so really bad. I don't think they know how to make a serious game. Like they need another outside writer to make a serious game.
Yeah, like
they
Nier,
need like yeah, exactly. They need like a Yoko Taro or, for instance, Metal Gear Solid Revengeance. They need that Kojima. They need a third party to come in and write the story for them, and then they can build a world around that. When they try to do it themselves in house, it just doesn't work out, in my opinion. I think they got lucky with Bayonetta, in my opinion. Because all their other games, it just seems like they just don't really know what the vision is for it. And yeah, so I am trying to platinum Scarlet Nexus. I decided I'm going to try and platinum it, and I don't know, man. This game is so fucking fun to me. I understand a lot of people don't like it, and that's okay. It's not it's not the best game ever. It's definitely not. There's definitely a lot of flaws with the game. But I don't know. I like the team that I have. I like the little bond missions that you do and everything like that. Now to get to the bond missions is a pain in the ass. You got to buy certain items and farm certain things and everything like that. But I think the action combat with it combined with it, like your psychic powers or your telepathic powers that you have, you can throw objects at people and then switch to your other teammates that have other elements as their SAS moves and everything like that. I think the world that they built to is just really cool. I actually like that kind of like post-apocalyptic cyberpunk type world. Like I don't know, have you ever watched what's it called? Psychopaths? You ever watch that anime?
No. It was, you mentioned it to me. It was on my list.
Yeah,
It's been on my list for a long time.
It reminds me of like Psychopaths and maybe a little bit of Chainsaw Man and stuff like that, where like you have these monsters from another world that kind of took over your world, but because you're using some kind of technology that fucked up your world or whatever, and like the area that they live in is like the only remaining civilization, but it's like a super advanced civilization, and that's how like Psychopaths is.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world is shit, and you fight these monsters called others and everything like that, and you find out what the others are. I can't really, if you're gonna play the game, if not you, but if anybody else is gonna play the game, I don't want to spoil it for who the others are and everything of that nature. But it's just a really, and they have an anime alongside of it, and I think it's just a really cool world that they built that unfortunately Bandai Namco is not going to go back towards anytime soon, because the person who made this game is now directing the Tales of games. So GG's to Scarlet Nexus, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Even though the creator said he tweets about this game every day. I follow him on Twitter. He tweets about this game every day. So you can tell he definitely wants to visit this game. This is probably one of his passion projects. But yeah, I love Scarlet Nexus. I will be. This is probably one of my favorite anime games of all time, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Can no longer deny it. Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite ones. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing. You said what?
I said I might need to check this game out. I never really gave it too much thought, but
yeah, and I understand because they released this alongside like a year after, a couple months after Code Vein or some shit like that.
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah. So, well, I mean, this person, that person being on Tails though is not necessarily a bad thing for Tails, right? We both like Tails, so
correct. Yeah.
Maybe it leads to good things there. So we'll see, certainly. But Yeah, so I haven't been playing much besides Metaphor, but we did play League once. We played like what, 2 games, I think it was. And
Yeah, we won those games, right?
yeah, those were fun games, man. We had
Yeah.
two
Okay.
two really fun matches, I think. One was kind of a steamroll, but um the other one was a hard fought victory.
Yeah, we had to
I
come back
would
for
say.
that.
Yeah, we had to come back, and I think we had good games, so it was fun. I think this is kind of what we need to do with League is just play it sporadically, like
Yeah.
once a week or twice a week maybe, and like don't we gotta avoid those, like, 2 week long stretches where we're playing it every day, and by the
Yeah.
end of the 2 weeks we want to kill ourselves, like
Yeah, I
we're
don't think
just
we can. I don't think I can do that personally. I can't even play solo queue by
yeah,
myself anymore. I
yeah,
can't do it
yeah.
anymore, man.
So yeah, that was pretty good. And then yeah, Metaphor. So I mean, I'm pretty deep in this game now. I'm at, like I said, I think I'm at the 50 hour mark. I did not have as much time to play this week as I did last week.
Okay.
Unfortunately, my weekend was super busy, but I tried to get in hours where I could, and I'm at the fourth dungeon now.
Okay.
And so where are you in the game? I guess you didn't really
I
play it this week.
I didn't really play it this week, so I just unlocked the singer. I just got her.
Okay, all right. So I'm
So
ahead of you now then.
yeah, so I did want to ask you a question because you're a little bit more smarter than me as far as like these mechanics, or not smarter, but you're better than me as far as these mechanics. How
Uh-huh.
do you navigate her? Like, I don't get her. Like everybody else, I kind of get, but
Yeah.
her, she's like really complicated in my head, or maybe I'm
She's
overcomplicating it.
not. You're overcomplicating it. So
Okay.
her accessory slot is not like everyone else's. I mean, it can be, right? You could put a normal accessory on her, but she has that the archetype she has allows her to put masks on in her accessory
Yeah.
slot, and those masks basically just give her whatever archetype that mask is based on. It gives her a couple abilities from that archetype, and then their weaknesses and resistances, and that's pretty
Okay.
much it. It's as simple as that. It's really it seems more complicated than that, but then you get a mechanic. You probably already have it unlocked. You just need to go talk to more to craft masks for her.
Yeah, I got
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, and that will so yeah, and you can kind of mix and match however you want. So see that archetype has its own abilities, but it has the flavor of being able to kind of customize and use abilities from other archetypes at the same time, on top of the skill inheritance that you already have as well.
Okay.
So it's probably one of the more versatile ones, the versatile archetypes. Like, she can have a lot of different abilities at her disposal. I will say she is a very magic focused character. Like,
Mm,
she's not a physical attacker at all, so she's not going to work well with any of the physical ones,
okay.
but yeah, she's definitely your party's primary mage after your MC for sure. But she's cool. I've been using her. She's replaced one of the party members for me because I kind of like having two in the back line, two in the front line is kind of how I've been playing it. So I have like two mages and two kind of frontliners is what I've been doing, and it's working pretty well for me at this point. And she's really strong. Her archetype's got some pretty strong abilities.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I would definitely recommend diving deeper into her mechanics. But I think there's two more party members in the game.
Yeah, yeah, I heard there's two more party members you can get.
Which yeah, this game's crazy with that, man. I can't believe, like, it's so I was saying this last week, but it is nutty that it takes you 20 to 30 hours to get your full party, like access to the full party in the game. That's fucking insane for a JRPG to do that. Most JRPGs like give you a full access to your full party like almost immediately nowadays. Like, it is so rare for games to do that anymore. And that the way it drip feeds the rest of the party to you, even when you do get four, is crazy. Like, it's I mean, I'm gonna get the last party member, I assume, pretty close to the end of the game. Like, I would think within 15 or 20 hours to the end of the game, which is nuts. Like, that is really late. Obviously older JRPGs have done that, like Final Fantasies and stuff, so it's not like completely unheard of or anything, but I'd say in the modern day and age, though, it is pretty rare. I don't really feel like games do that too often. I guess Persona does though. Now that I think about it, like yeah, Persona 5, you got your last party member. You got pretty late in the game, from what I remember in Persona. So they're not
Yeah.
averse to it. Atlas is not averse to doing this, um, but it does. So this is where I'm at with the game. So I'm in the fourth dungeon now, and I'm probably, I don't know, halfway to 2/3 of the way through that dungeon. At least that's how it feels to me right now. And I there was a kind of a pseudo reveal that happens in the middle of this dungeon that it kind of just like it kind from a narrative standpoint, it kind of
Don't tell
just
me it sours you. Oh
it
no.
soured me a little bit. I'm not sure how to feel about it. I think I I I
I
don't
gotta
want to
get to
spoil
this.
it. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
don't want
gotta
to
get to
spoil it.
this.
It's not anything like it's not like a cut scene that happens. It's actually more of a just kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say more. I'm gonna spoil it,
Okay, okay.
but I will say it is like in my head. I'm kind of like, this is a little disappointing. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't do something like this with this game, and they are doing it. It looks like, like I said, it just happened. I don't know more than that. Maybe there's some more lore implications and things, events that are going to happen that explain it a little bit deeper that maybe sours me less on this. But it's kind of a trope that a lot of fantasy has already tread. It's ground
Mm,
that's been tread very commonly in fantasy for especially in the last 10 to 15 years, I would say, but especially in video games. But I've seen it going as far back as like the 90s with certain fantasy authors and stuff. Um, so it's like this is well trodden ground, and I'm a little disappointed in that. Like I was kind of like they had me right. This world is very interesting, and adding this wrinkle to it just kind of was like, man, So I don't know, because you are adding that into the fact that I would say the fourth area you go to is kind of boring. Like there's not a lot going on with it, and you don't have nearly as many activities to do as you did in the prior three areas that you were in, and it kind of feels like the game slows down a lot here. Narratively, I think up to the dungeon, it's very interesting. Actually, there's some really interesting stuff that happens directly after where you are. Actually, there's a lot of some cool narrative threads that start to show up, um, but it's like it just slows down so much. And I mean, it's like this game is slow, right? So I mean, when it slows down, I'm saying it's slowing down for like 5 or 10 hours, and it's like you're doing side content. And I think that's the other thing I'll say is the game is long, and I don't know how much more patience I have for these dungeons that are starting to reuse layouts from prior dungeons.
mm.
We're already getting to that point, and like I'm kind of like, man, like, and the combat's still fun. I'm still enjoying the combat a lot, but man, when I go to the big dungeon for the fourth area, the big side dungeon for the fourth area, and it's literally just a reuse layout, like entirely reuse layout, like from a dungeon from the previous area. I'm like, man, like this is not the kind of stuff I want to see, you know. So it's fine. It's not a huge problem. Like games do this. Happens in RPGs. But this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about though when I say that games are too long, right? Because you're adding an hour-long dungeon into your game, or maybe even longer, hour and a half potentially, depending on how much combat you get into your game. That is like, does it really need to be there? You know, could we truncate this a little bit? It's like, I feel like it's, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, Metaphor is still great. I'm still very high on it. But I will say I'm starting to turn a little bit from my opinion on last week. I'm starting to think I think Persona 5 is a better game overall than this one. I don't think the dungeon design is up to par compared to Persona 5. Like I think the palaces from Persona 5 have really great level design and layouts. They're very deep and detailed, and there's a lot going on in them. I think that's less true here in Metaphor. I don't think
I
yeah,
I can 100% agree with you. I think they
yeah,
made them shorter on purpose.
yeah.
Do they
No,
seem
they
shorter to
definitely
you?
are shorter. They definitely are way
Yeah.
shorter. Um, You can get through them in one sitting, and by one sitting I mean like 2 hours, maybe 3, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas Persona 5, I mean, it was dude, it was they were humongous, like
You had
absolutely
to plan
gigantic.
your days. You had to
Yes,
plan your days out.
100%.
So
And a lot of the time you couldn't get through them in one go in Persona.
yeah. Yep.
Like one in-game day, you couldn't get through them in one in-game day usually in Persona 5. So, that in Metaphor they deliberately deliberately designed them so that's possible here, which is good. It's good in some ways, but I think they did leave something behind though with that choice. So it's just they're not as deep and interesting to explore. And then I think the other thing is the bond system also in this game. This is going to be kind of a take it or leave it thing, I think, for people. Is that the bond system is different from Persona in the sense. So I mentioned this last week that you don't have to grind your relationship with people to like get to the next rank. It just when it's available and you hit a certain threshold, whether it's that's through the story or you get your kind of virtues up to a certain level, it just unlocks and you can go do it. And you get the next rank. Whereas in Persona, you'll say you'll be rank 5 with your confidant, and then getting to rank 6 you'll have to like go hang out with them like 2 or 3 times to like level it up enough for you to be able to unlock that next rank of the confidant. You don't have
Yeah.
to do that here, which is again, this is going to be a take it or leave it thing for people. That depth is can be a little annoying in Persona, where it kind of the game takes forever as a result because you're kind of like grinding this stuff. Whereas in Metaphor, it's a little bit more streamlined, but at the same time, you are kind of losing something a little bit with that depth because you don't have to plan your time nearly as well in Metaphor as you do in Persona. Like Persona, you really do need to pick and choose. You're not going to be able to do everything in that game. Whereas in Metaphor, it really feels like I'm going to be able to do everything, unlock all the bonds and max them all out. So, which is cool. That's an interesting design choice for them for Atlas, but again, that you do maybe lose something there in the translation though.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, as I played the game more, maybe kind of starting to see the cracks form a little bit, but I think the game is still excellent, still a great game overall. The music is still great. The plot is there's certain aspects of the plot that I'm very intrigued with. Um, you know, uh, Particularly around certain characters that we've run into. So I'm still excited to play more and get to the end of the game, but I'm definitely hitting the point where I'm like I'm ready to kind of hit the final stretch. Though I want to get through this dungeon and like move on to the next area and get to the kind of end game part of the game. So yeah. Montreal, I mean, are you kind of taking a break from it? Did you hit your like fatigue point with it, or what's going on with you with Metaphor?
Um, I don't know. I just wanted to play a little bit more action focused games.
Okay.
So I'm really in like an action game mode right now. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I think
I
I'm in the
definitely want to
opposite
revisit.
mindset. I'm in the
Yeah,
RPG mood right now.
yeah. I think I probably won't get back into RPG mode until like for a while, but I do want to finish Metaphor for sure. So I don't want to let it slip away from me. So I think probably by the end of this month, I'm gonna pick it back up again
Cool.
because I definitely don't want to forget the story beats. It's kind of hard to forget them because the story's been really good so far. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think my thing is when I unlock that singer, I don't. I get really frustrated with stuff like that, and I just thought she was like super complicated. I'm like, dude, come on, like,
Yeah.
why couldn't it
Yeah.
just be like another character? Like, why couldn't she just be a straightforward mage? And I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I got to unlock
Yeah.
fucking mask for her, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
Nah,
now
it's
I'm
pretty
pretty sure there's some like
simplistic. Yeah.
some super optimal build for her and everything like that, and she's probably gonna be like
Oh,
one of the
sure.
strongest characters in the game. And I'm
She
just
might
like,
be, actually. She might be. I think her combined with like mage and healer archetypes is going to be fucking insane. You're going to have this all around damage, healing, just like juggernaut mage potentially. But you
yeah,
could also, I don't know if you've unlocked Faker yet.
I
Um,
did, yeah, I
you
unlocked
did,
Faker.
okay. That's like the debuff one, so that might be a good route for her as well potentially. You need to
See,
go.
yeah, I thought Hesme would be a good faker, but maybe he's not. I just thought I don't fit his
No,
play
no.
style.
Well, you need to for the fifth character, you have to go into Faker with her to level 10 to unlock her higher level of Mass Singer. So, um
Okay.
so they're kind of already pushing you in that direction a little bit. So I think for her, like some kind of combination of faker, healer, and then her main archetype is going to be pretty nasty later in the game.
Okay.
So I think she's just a really versatile character. She'll kind of enable you to do a lot of things with one character. Which yeah, what so I think the last thing I'll say is the archetype system. I do prefer this to the personas for sure. Um,
100%.
it's so much more. It's more straightforward, but I think there's enough depth to it where you're able to take abilities from other archetypes and mix and match however you see fit with that, as long as you have the magic or the mag to purchase them for inheritance. I think it kind of allows you to build the characters how you want to build them. Which is really cool. Obviously, every character has their strengths and weaknesses in terms of the stats that they kind of tend towards, the statistics that they're main in. But for the most part, though, you do have a lot of flexibility with the different archetypes, and I think the variety of archetypes is very cool. I don't really feel like there are any that are redundant in the game so far, and I think I only have 2 more to unlock. So they all kind of have their space within the game, and I think they work pretty well. So yeah, it's a good system. It's a really good
Yeah.
system. I'm excited to see if they ever make a Metaphor 2 or whatever form this franchise takes going forward. I definitely love to see them flesh this system out even more. So cool. That's all I've been playing otherwise. So yeah, well, I guess we'll just get into the news, Montrell. So we got nothing, no huge stories. So let's before we get into this, we kind of have forgot to mention the elephant in the room. So the Game Awards is recording right now, I think, or happening right now, is airing
Yeah.
right now. Obviously,
Yep.
we're not covering it here on this show. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna get this show, which you're hearing right now. It comes out on Friday as normal. Montrell and I are going to be recording kind of like a special side episode on Saturday that will immediately go live when we're done within 30 minutes of us being done, and we'll go up at some point on Saturday, probably afternoon to early evening, somewhere in there, I would say. More than likely, so that we're going to fully cover the Game Awards, the announcements, our thoughts on everything that goes down there. Maybe even talk about the awards itself as well, because I'm like so convinced that Shadow of the Earth Tree is going to win Game of the Year, and Pandemonium will reign. Like I'm so fucking convinced that's going to happen at this point. So that's the plan for that. So there'll be 2 episodes this week. One's this normal show, and then the coverage of the Game Awards. So look forward to that. All right, Marshall, let's get into the news though proper here. So Eurogamer they kind of did this big blowout of articles for PlayStation's 30th anniversary this past week, and one of those was a 2 article series doing interviews with Shawn Layden. So the first one is mostly about Layden's kind of history and start with PlayStation. I don't really think there's anything much to cover there for us, but the second one was more on his kind of thoughts on the current industry and trends in the industry. And we're going to tread some familiar ground with some of this. We've talked about some of Layden's comments before, but I think you and I are very much in line with the way he thinks about the industry right now. So yeah, I'm just going to read some quotes out, and we'll kind of dissect each one. So first question that Eurogamer asks is, how do you feel about the video game industry currently? You've mentioned not seeing innovative new games like Parappa the Rapper anymore. Where are the new games? And then Layden says, quote, I guess you get new genre activity at the indies level where there's more risk tolerance. You have got to take the risk, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. But I'm afraid that the current cost of game development with AAA console titles costing in the hundreds of millions squeezes risk tolerance out of them. If you're looking at something that's going to clock in at 160 million to produce, the immediate reaction to the finance guys is, okay, what is that comparable to? How are you going to make me feel better? Can you show me how the trend line is going to be exactly like Grand Theft Auto so I can feel fine putting money behind it? It results in a lot of copycats, a lot of sequels. Give me GTA 7 because I know how to plot that course. End quote. So I mean, he's just talking in general here, kind of about, lack of risk taking from many of the bigger earners in AAA games in general in the industry. Montrell, what do you make of this? Is this where's your head at on this?
No, I totally agree with him. I think that is why we're not getting things like per rapper to rapper. I mean, we actually had an example of that, uh, just recently with a Hi-Fi Rush,
Hmm.
which was a very experimental character action game that revolves around your combat being around actual rhythm. Go
Right.
figure. But yeah, Xbox, despite it being critically acclaimed and it didn't sell 2 billion units, it didn't push GTA numbers. They closed down that studio, and someone else had to come and buy that studio,
Right.
um,
Yep.
which I think is crazy to me. And yeah, I mean, I just wholeheartedly agree. I mean, we already touched on it. How I don't think games should be costing $160 million. I even think 50 million is too much for a game. But they made Ghost of Tsushima. I keep going to that figure because they made Ghost of Tsushima on a $50 million budget.
Yeah.
And if that game can be made on a $50 million budget, even though it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I still think other great games can be made on 20 to $50 million budgets, and we don't need these big bloated 200. I think any game over 100 million, you're just doing way. Actually, like 70 million, you're just doing way too much. It shouldn't be worth anything at that point.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I
Well, yeah,
and I'm
most
very
games go ahead. Sorry.
no, I'm sorry. Like I'm very curious to see. Like I know way back in the day, like per rapper to rapper, that probably wasn't even like a that probably was like not $100 million, like $1 million budget game or less than that or something of that nature. But it's just like um I do want those more experimental games so that we can have room for those games. And putting all that on the indie space is not fair. And I know he didn't mean it like that, but um
I think he's
us
just
as
saying what
general,
the reality is.
yeah,
Right.
the reality of
Yep.
the situation, us putting this on the indie space is really crazy to me because those indie games take 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years to come out because sometimes they are literally being made by one person,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just don't think that's fair to the gamer or the developer.
Right. Yeah, and I largely agree with Layden as well. Like his point about the finance guys is such a frustrating reality because it's like dude, you're like these people, the people with the money are dictating the creativity level we get from game developers, which to some degree makes sense, right? If you're going to invest money in something, you want to feel confident that you're going to make your money back, right? And then some. But at the same time, it's like prohibiting them from being creative in the space because you want you want to you want to guarantee you're going to make money, so you do something derivative off something that's already proven to be successful. But this doesn't necessarily isn't guaranteed to work in video games. We were talking about this with the live service games last week. Is like, dude, people aren't interested in playing the same game 3 years, like every 2 years. It's like there's got to be something new at some point to kind of bring people back in. I don't think, to a degree, single player games can get away with this, where you're kind of making the same game but better, a little bit better over and over again. Eventually that doesn't work anymore, though. I mean, we're seeing this with Ubisoft, where their sales are just completely cratering, because I think people are just tired of their style of game. They've been making it for 10 to 15 years now, and
Yeah,
I think the it's kind of run its course, and we're seeing it happen in real time. Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to be a very, very interesting game to see how it does, because Star Wars Outlaws did not do well, compared to what Ubisoft wants their games to do. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure the game sold 1 million copies or more, maybe a 2 million, but that's not really a success for Ubisoft, and that is not a success for a Star Wars game, of that size and magnitude. So it's, I think it's just there have been signs out there that people are kind of not necessarily pushing back, but they're not putting their money towards a lot of these kind of derivative games, that we've seen before. So I think that's something that has to change in the industry for sure. So, all right,
yeah,
the
I agree.
next Next question they asked was there's been discussion recently around how console generations aren't growing over time either. Is it enough to keep selling to the same sized audience? And then Layden, this is Layden's response, quote, so yes, if you stack it up and look at all the things that were around during the PS1 era, whether it's Saturn and N64 or the PS2 and Xbox era, no generation seems to get over the 250 million units of hardware aggregate. The one time it popped is when the Wii Fit came out and a bunch of people thought they could lose weight by buying a Nintendo Wii. There's that momentary Christmas, oh, let's lose weight thing, which shot up the console number, but then it fell back down again. Even when you hear that gaming revenue went up 23% during the pandemic, it wasn't from new people necessarily. It was more money from the same people. And this is the existential threat I talk about when I'm meeting with developers and publishers, that you're just getting more money off the same people. It's a business model I understand and you understand, and that's fine. But we're not growing the next generation. We're losing the next generation to TikTok. The competition for gaming isn't Xbox and Nintendo, it's everything else in the freaking zeitgeist that can take your time away from your gaming activity. The pandemic gave us an unnatural pop for gaming where we thought, oh my God, gaming is the biggest thing in the world. Yeah, when you're locked down, it is the biggest thing in the world. But in a regular world scenario, you've got to combat against all the other distractions that are available to young people. And I'm afraid that we're not facing that threat head on as an industry. End quote. So what do you think about this one?
That's actually a very interesting take. I didn't think about gaming being in competition with TikTok. Seems like everything's in competition with fucking TikTok.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but no, I agree with him. Actually, I didn't think about as well the pandemic. I thought the pandemic did bring out a lot of new gamers. Um, but I did see even the ones that were new, I did see them kind of shelve their games once, things started to ramp back up and they're not playing their video games as much anymore and things of that nature. So, I mean, the numbers do kind of line up to what he's saying. We were buying games a lot more. We had more time, we had a little bit more capital
Yeah.
and everything of that nature to do that at the time. Um, and yeah, it makes sense. I mean, even the games report that we read last week, I think even digital micro sales were down, or microtransaction sales were down as well. So I think
Yeah.
everyone's feeling it um, as well. Even if you are making like $1 billion of Genshin Impact, 5% less than that is a lot of money to that one guy, or
Right.
2% or whatever. That's a lot of money that they're not getting in, like millions of dollars. So um, yeah, I agree with him. And I'm upset that he's kind of like mentoring the gaming industry. He's not really in the gaming industry anymore because he has the most realistic take on gaming that I've
Yeah.
seen, that's like not political, not controversial or anything like that. He's just like, hey, we really need to look out for what's going on in the industry, that even I feel like journalists are like not writing about and things of that nature.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing to see in Eurogamer, right? Like I don't feel like most of games media talks about these topics very often.
Yeah.
And I mean honestly, we actually talked about this I don't know, a few months back. Cuz I remember we were discussing like, is our generation the youngest core gamer generation left, and like will younger people actually like play games the way we do in 20 years? And yeah, I think this is probably one of the biggest threats to video games as we know it right now, is if we can't get the younger generations to play games, then games aren't going to exist in 50 years, because they're those people, like nobody's going to be playing them, right? Like they're not going to play them with their kids, and then they're not going to play them with their kids, and then the industry just kind of dies on the vine because of that, that kind of trend. And his point about the pandemic, I mean, is certainly well taken, right? Even if you don't, even if there were new people, obviously the people that do play had more time to play, so they were spending more time on their consoles, and they might have been spending more money along with that, buying more games, spending more money on microtransactions. I think that was true for probably all of us, right? To some degree. And I mean, this is just retreading ground that we've talked about, though, is that companies misread this so badly, in that period of time, and we've seen the fallout from that. So yeah. All right, the next question they ask, so then how do we face that threat head on as an industry? And Layden's response, quote, we need to address two or three things specifically. One thing is the exploding cost of game development. Every generation, it costs twice as much to build a game. What costs 1 million on PS1 then costs 2, then 4, then 16. It goes exponentially. The PS4 generation, which was the last I was associated with, game dev was 150 million if you wanted to be top of the line, and that's before marketing. So by that math, PS5 games would eventually reach 300 to 400 million, and that is just outright not sustainable. It's like we're at the end of the 18th century and we're realizing that building cathedrals is really expensive. Can we continue to build these massive edifices to God for this incredible amount of labor and time, or should we just build 4 walls and a roof and that's a church, right? I'm afraid we've built AAA gaming into a kind of cathedral business and we can't grow any further. In fact, it's probably grown too far already. How do we cap that? How do we bring that back? I think part of the answer is, and it sounds simplistic, but hear me out, I think games are too long. I haven't even opened Red Dead Redemption 2 because I don't have 90 hours, and I'm retired and I don't have 90 hours. For the longest time, we kept banging on about 100 hours of gameplay. This is going to be awesome. It's 100 hours of gameplay. Like, that's the most important thing to know. That was a metric in the early years when the average gamer was 18 to 23. And when you're 18 to 23, you're time rich and money poor. But as the average age of the gamer moved into the late 20s and the early 30s, well, it's the opposite, right? Maybe you aren't money rich, but you're definitely time poor. I think our approach is a mismatch to that market, to reality, end quote. So, I mean, he's preaching to the choir on this one, right?
I know, right?
we've been banging on about all this shit for months at this point. Like, goddamn, years probably. Like, dude, it's a real thing. I mean, he mentions Red Dead Redemption 2, dude, and I mean, could he have picked a more perfect game to encapsulate this? Because I bought that game. I didn't buy it intentionally, but I got it as part of the PS4 Pro bundle way back in the day. This is in like 2016, 2017 when they did a bundle with that game. Or actually, when did Red Dead Redemption? Was it 2018? Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. I think that's when I got my Pro. Whenever that game came out, they had a bundle with it, and that's how I got it. And I always wanted to play it. Right? I always wanted to play Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's like, dude, it's 100 hours. Where do you fit that in? It's like I struggle with this all the time. It's like, how many 100-hour games could I possibly want to play and actually practically have the fucking time to play? And he's saying, as somebody who's fucking retired, he doesn't have time to play this shit, you know? So forget about those of us with jobs, right? Like, dude, I was thinking about Unicorn Overlord, right? 111 hours. That's what my rap says I played. And dude, I think that game enveloped at least an entire month of my life where I was playing nothing else, you know? And it's like, do I want to do that all the time? No, I really don't. You know, it's like, that's a lot of fucking time for a game, man. You know, and I don't look at that as a positive. That game was entirely too long. Like, it could have cut 1 or 2 of the regions down completely and the game probably would be better, you know, in some ways. It's just like, I felt that way about that. God of War Ragnarok was like that, where you had bloat. Even The Last of Us 2 was too long. You know, that game was like 30 hours of like The Last of Us. That's fucking intense, dude. That's a huge amount of time. It's crazy. Those games can be exhausting to play in some regards. So it's like 30 hours.
Especially emotionally heavy game like The Last of Us. That is
100%. You know, so it's like his point is very well taken here. 100%. You know.
Yeah, no, I agree. He hit the nail. He hit it right on the head, man. Like, I want to play Red Dead Redemption. Like, I want to. I can't though. My body literally would not. I would get ready to load the disc in, and I'm just like, I can't do it. Like,
man, it's such a daunting engagement that you're making, basically.
Yeah, you know? And it's like, I think that's why, for me in particular, why I go back and play older games, because I can skip cutscenes. I know the story already. I know everything already, and I enjoy the game already. You know, I can go back and do that. And then it's like, I was trying to think of it too, right? I was trying to play devil's advocate. Like, well, what about the younger gamers that, you know, at that time, we had the time to do that. And it's like, they don't have the attention span to play 100-hour games anymore. So that's what he's talking about. Right. You know, like, we had that attention span back in the day.
Well, because there was nothing else to do. You know?
Exactly.
So, oh, God forbid, what are we going to do? Read a book? Hell no.
So, and it's like, it's not their fault. Like, I'm not trying to say, oh, these young whippersnappers. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's the way social media and technology has developed our children and like the generation after us, where you know, everything's kind of immediate, and it's not just video games media, it's like food and everything like that. Everything's almost immediate. So,
Yeah.
that being said, yeah, I don't want to play Red Dead Redemption 2 for 150 hours. Bro, I played Dragon Age Inquisition, bro, and I wanted to fucking kill myself at the I remember I put 120 hours to that game, and I was
Mm.
playing that shit, and I'm just like, it's fun, but god damn. And then I'm and even Dragon Age Vanguard. I played that for the entire month of like November, I think. It came out on the 31st, and yeah. So the almost the entire month of November, I played that game. That's only 67 hours I put in that game.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, like, yeah, like you said, do I really want to do that with like Metaphor? Do I want to play another spend my entire month playing that game? Do I want to do that with Baldur's Gate? And it's like these are very good games, but it's just like when I'm loading up the game, I'm just like, oh my god, I gotta play this game, and
Yep.
it's on average 80 hours, and I'm barely
Yep.
scratching the surface in 80 hours, and it's like that's daunting for a 35-year-old person or a 30-year-old person, a 28-year-old person who's just
Right.
getting a career started and everything of that nature.
Yep.
Like, and that, God forbid you have kids. Like me and you don't have kids. We have
I
pets, but
know.
we don't have kids.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's just like, um, you throw kids into the fact, and it's just like you're not finishing these games at all. And I think that's why like people like our friend Jet and like Andy, they play these multiplayer games because they can get quick action in. They can go in and play MMOs, do a couple of dungeons, and then get the fuck out and take care of their kids when their kids need something or
Right.
something like that, right?
Right.
They don't have to invest themselves into a narrative that can
Well,
take
you're never finishing it either, really, realistically, right? So
exactly, yeah,
there's not like I'm sure you have goals in the game, right? I'm sure they do, but it's like you're not like with a single player game, you beat the game, right? There's a point where you beat the game and the game is over.
yeah,
And when you have that hanging over you, you always kind of in the back of your head, you feel like you need to go back and beat that game, you know? Whereas with an MMO or a multiplayer game, you're never beating it really realistically. So it's like you're not. It's just kind of a treadmill you're on. So you don't have that pressure in the back of your head that it's like, oh, I need to go beat Mass Effect. It's like, oh man, I got 15 hours to go in Mass Effect. I need to go finish it.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so
So yeah, I agree with him. I think the game length of games is just entirely too long. I mean, I bring it up all the time, which is funny because my friend had the opposite reaction towards Final Fantasy VII remake. He
mhm,
actually preferred the Rebirth because of the length and the things you can do. And I'm like on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm like, bro, it was a straightforward game. I got in my little 35 hours and I got the fuck out. Like, and that
yeah,
was so
remake was perfect.
yeah, remake was really perfect.
Yeah,
You know, even games like I love Xenoblade. I love the Xenoblade games, but it's hard for me to recommend those games to people because I know the time investment
yeah,
there are into those
hundred
games, right?
percent, dude. You aren't beating
It
the story in less than 50 or 60 hours. It's
Yeah,
like,
and then the reason I hold one to such a high regard as compared to two and three, I think three is better than two. But like I hold one to such high regards because the game, to be honest with you, you unlock almost 100% of the mechanics than the first 5 to 10 hours of one.
yeah,
It's a very straightforward JRPG. The story is very straightforward. I love one because it doesn't waste the player's time. It respects your time. Um,
right.
Compared to like two and three, and I think yeah, I think games just need to respect our time, and I understand like we were back in 2010 and we were in this mode. We were like, oh, we want longer games. It's just like, yeah, but I'm also not like 24 anymore, 22, 23
Right.
anymore, so
Shit, 15. Where you have an entire summer off, and you just fucking just gaming all summer. It's like we don't have that anymore, man.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yep.
Shit, even like for TV shows, like we're just like, can you draw my attention the first two
Yeah.
episodes?
Yeah.
If not, I'm sorry for you, buddy. I'm sorry.
Dude, I'm struggling right now with this, by the way. Like, dude, I was started watching Handmaid's Tale last month, right? In November. And I got through I got through season 1 and then I got halfway through season 2 and I just like I hit a brick wall with it because season 2 kind of flags a little bit to me. Like it gets a lot less interesting, I think, than season 1 was, and the plot movement is like it's kind of meandering, I guess, in a similar way I was talking about Metaphor. Whereas there's not a lot happening. It's just kind of like it just feels like the characters are just kind of going through the motions. Like it doesn't feel like the plot's going anywhere. And I'm like, I got 3.5 seasons to go of this show. Like fuck, and like even Arcane, dude, is like 8 episodes, right, of season 2, or 9 episodes. It took me like 2 weeks probably to get through that. It's only like 9 hours, but it's like fuck. I mean, where do you fit that in? Even if I spent the entire night watching the damn show, it's like I only get through like 5 episodes, maybe. So I have to spend 2 nights after work doing just Arcane, just watching just Arcane. It's like I'm not gonna do that most nights. Realistically, I'm not like I'm not that in. That only happens when I'm like super obsessed with something. Like completely just enamored with something. And most things don't do that to me anymore. So it's like I don't know. It's yeah, he's definitely preaching to the choir. The budget part, we've talked about a lot as well. Is that game budgets are just huge. They don't need to be this big. And making your games shorter is one way you could reduce your budget. so yeah. All right, let's move on to the next part. Next question they asked was, it feels like every generation is getting lumbered with even higher production costs, production values, and we're seeing a smaller selection of games as a result, at least on consoles. This is Layden's response, quote, yeah, rendering at 480p was not very expensive, but doing 4K at 60 FPS, that's a lot of people, a lot of time. Let's look at our obsession with photorealism, chasing that uncanny valley. From what I've seen, it's non-traversable. Don't chase that. I think a photorealistic Mario would be kind of off-putting, frankly. Or when they did that first Sonic draft for the Sonic movie with teeth. PS1, our expectation walking down the street in a game was that you couldn't open every door. Now the expectation is you can go in every house, open every drawer, and everything is destructible. And that's nice, but it's expensive to make that happen. We have to look at that. If only 50% of players see the end of your game, what about all those millions you spend on the final level for only half the people to see it? There's so much money being put into making huge game experiences and people aren't seeing it. What would Coppola do if you walked out halfway through his movie? We have to understand, is this a good use of resources? I want a movement that gets more people to finish games where we make it so compelling they just want to see it, and where it's not so onerous they don't have to spend 3 months doing it, end quote. What do you think, Montrell?
I'm once again, I don't disagree with anything he's been saying. I think he has a very, very correct take on the outlook of the industry. Yeah. It's just wild how no one else is talking about this. It's absolutely insane.
It is weird that I do feel like it is weird that somebody like him who's not been in the industry really for 5 years is like saying these things, and it just feels like no one in the industry is saying anything remotely like this. They're just like obsessed with making the biggest thing possible, I don't know. I just what's the breaking point though? When does it all break down where people realize that Layden's right and they actually start like applying the things he's saying to the way they develop games? Like what's that point,
I don't know.
Is it Ubisoft? Is Ubisoft like the canary in the
No.
coal mine? Like I don't think so, but it
The
should be
reason
for people.
So this is where I take this is kind of like a symbiotic relationship that happened to where we are today.
Yeah.
Games have been getting progressively more powerful and things of that nature, to where we are expecting to open a door, on a random fucking bank and on the random side of a map or whatever that we would never go into, and just walk around. We are expecting that, and I think that expectation is now unrealistic. It was realistic at one point, and it was something cool to do, but we made it the expectation with games like, I hate to say it, but like GTA, as great as GTA is, games like even The Witcher to some extent, right?
Yep.
We love The Witcher, and it's like, I even say to like Monster Hunter, like Monster Hunter World and stuff like that, right? Like we want these big grandioso games to where what's wrong with I would have liked like I didn't so this is gonna be like very counterintuitive to what I said, right? So as much as I like the direction Monster Hunter Wilds is going in, right? I would have liked Rise with just like world quality, if that makes any sense. Like
Yeah.
the size of Rise was like perfect for me, right?
Yeah.
And I would just like to have the world quality. And that's what I wanted the next game to be. They didn't have to do what they did with Wilds. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, where else did you go from there now? It's going to become an unsustainable thing.
Well, it's it's just scope creep, right? It's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you can't do it anymore. You know?
Exactly. And then you're going to have to reboot the franchise. And it's like, and I think that's where I think the game industry in itself needs a reboot. And I think that's why you see a lot of people gravitating towards these short 2D platformy indie games. As much as like we grew up with it, there's a lot of people who didn't play those games. A lot of kids who didn't play those type of games and things of that nature, where they gravitate like towards those games where they're like, oh, this is a quick 20-hour game or whatever, and it's not taking up all my fucking time or whatever the case may be. Like, if you talk to a lot of the younger generation, they hold Undertale to this like to the way we hold Mass Effect. You know, like it's just like this revolutionary thing that happened. And I never played Undertale, but like you talk to a lot of people like the generation under us, so like 28, 29, maybe 25, 26 or whatever, and they hold Undertale. They're like, yeah, man, Undertale, bro. Oh my fucking god, it's just like it was just there, man. That's a spicy meatball. Like, you know, it's there for them, and it's like, for even playing games like Dragon Age Veilguard, right? I respect that they didn't go as big as they wanted to with like Inquisition. They made like these big city hubs, but they were condensed to like corridors, if that make any sense. And I respected the fuck out of that, because it's like, I don't want a super huge game, a huge open field. I don't fucking need that shit anymore. I don't need open hubs everywhere, you know? Like, and people ragged on it. Like, people who play these games ragged on, like, I mean, obviously besides the whole woke shit from Vanguard that people allegedly was there, whatever the fuck, they ragged on Vanguard for that shit, and I just don't think that's fair. Like, I think, and this is where it comes to like the symbiotic relationship, right? When games do scale shit back, YouTubers and gamers and everything like that, like the regular gamers, I'm not talking about like IGN reviewers and stuff like that, rag on them for that or whatever the case may be. And I don't think that's fair. I think that's in the state that we're in now, I think it's okay to scale back. When the new Zelda game came out, it wasn't what I wanted, but you know what? I was glad to see them scale back from, like, even though it was like I consider it a side game, that Zelda game that just came out.
Yeah, it is.
I don't mind that, right? I want I don't want Tears of the Kingdom 3. Because, like, what else are you gonna do with fucking Link now? Like, is he gonna fucking is it gonna be a whole planet this time? Like, what else can you do with that?
400 shrines and fucking, oh my god, kill me, dude. I don't want 400 of anything in my fucking game. Like,
bro, we never, in my opinion, bro, I don't think anyone ever and I think this is why I don't like Breath of the Wild as much, right? In Tears of the Kingdom, I never wanted this. I wanted an open world game, but I just wanted like the size of like Ocarina of Time. I didn't want this, you know? And it's like, this is like when you make a wish for a genie, you wish for $1 million, but they give you $1 million in, like, I don't know,
pennies.
Pennies or something like that, or like some currency that's not as equal as, you know, the American dollar, and it's like, oh, it's actually only worth $2, and you're like, well, you asked for $100, but you didn't say what currency, and he gives you $100 million in like Monopoly money or some shit like that, right? So it's just like, that's what I think. That's what we're stumbling upon, and a lot of people don't realize it, and they don't see that. Like, I'm actually scared for like the PS6 or the PlayStation 6 or whatever the next generation is. I'm scared for that thing because I don't I don't need to see every follicle or fucking eyelash and fucking let's just say The Witcher 5 or 6 or whatever. I don't need to see,
Yeah.
Geralt's fucking pore and everything like
Yeah.
pussing up when he gets slabbed or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
need that, and I think that's what Shawn Layden is getting to. Like it's just becoming a very, very unsustainable model.
Yeah.
And
Right.
unsustainable expectations, not even money wise, expectation wise. I think that's why Fortnite's doing so well because it's like cartoony graphics. They built what they built, and then you get what you get, and that's what
Well,
it
you
is.
like lose the right. A lot of these games are losing the plot, right? It's about fun, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the way the game looks doesn't necessarily contribute to it being fun. You know, it can, but it doesn't always, right? So it's like you get so obsessed with the way a game looks, Order 1886 or something, and then you end up forgetting to make a fucking game out of it. And dude, did you ever think when you were a kid and you were playing fucking Monster Hunter, back in the day, that you would eventually get to the point where they'd make an open world Monster Hunter game and there might be like collectibles in it, like a fucking Spider-Man game, Like, because we don't know if they're doing that with Wilds, right? But I have a feeling they probably will put things that are collectible esque into the game, like little idols you can collect or, puzzles that you can solve or something, that are littered throughout the open world. Like, do you think they're going to do anything like that with Wilds?
I hope not. The only collectibles I want are materials, man. That's
Yeah.
that's it,
Well,
right?
because what I wanted out of an open world Monster Hunter game is like the open world like Monster Hunter is one of the only franchises I can see like that actually justifies having an open world in the sense of that open world nature of it contributes to the immersive quality of the monster hunting, right? Like that's the reason I wanted it to go that direction because I think you could have a more immersive game out of it where you have monsters kind of existing in these habitats that are connected to each other rather than separated the way they've been, right? Whereas most games that are open world don't necessarily justify it being open world. They don't need to be open world. Like RPGs have that a lot of the time. Like I think a lot of open world RPGs, sure, like Witcher open world, great. That game being open world, that's like a bone that helps the game, right? But I don't necessarily think that's true for every single game. Like Zelda being an example, right? Like Zelda being open world for me turned me off. It turned you off too. I just don't need that from Zelda. And the point about being able to go in every door, by the way, or every building, by the way, I think is a really good point to bring up because this was something I mentioned with Baldur's Gate 3 is when this stuff is true for certain types of players, and I'm one of these players, and I think there's a lot of people like this who play games, is that when you allow me to go in every door, every building, and I can open every drawer and see what's in every fucking drawer, I'm going to do it. And it's going to make your game exceedingly tedious to play, where it's like fucking drawer opening simulator. I'm not actually playing your RPG. I'm just running around opening every fucking drawer and box and armoire in every house, in your fucking game rather than actually playing the goddamn game. And that's what happens with Baldur's Gate 3 for me is like, that's why the game that's why it took me forever to like get up to the point where I want to play the game because it's like, you got to be in a certain headspace to want to do that where you're running around an environment and like you're in a house and there's like a secret basement and then there's like 5 rooms in the fucking basement and there's 85 barrels and crates and half of them some of them are trapped and all this shit. It's like, dude, it ends up taking you an hour to get through this fucking basement that's 4 rooms. It's like that's a certain type of experience that I don't always want to have. And yeah, it can be fun, but it's like you end up overdoing it when you allow people to like do everything, like touch everything that's in your world, go into every single corner and every single room and every building. It can be too much. And I think games have certainly hit that point for sure. Sometimes I'm not saying Baldur's Gate 3 is doing that. That game is a specific experience. Like CRPGs have been doing that since the 90s, where you've had that kind of level of granularity to it. But That's happening now in your third person action RPGs though, like Assassin's Creed and fucking Witcher and shit, you know.
But I
Um,
think that's the thing that a lot of players don't understand. Which I don't know if he covers, but genres matter in this aspect, right? You can't take something like Baldur's Gate 3 and expect that level of detail and quality in a action RPG game. You know,
yeah,
like because those are
yeah,
two different genres. One, yeah, they're role playing games, but like you said before, that has been the CRPG genre for years. Like
yeah,
that you can do that and everything like that. And I think games like, you know, Fallout and Elder Scrolls and everything like that, they try to blend those things in together to where you can expect that. But I don't know. Um it's just a weird slippery slope that we get ourselves into that we kind of expect that from every game. Um
yeah,
going forward. And I think a lot of the expectation too is because we do know how much money these companies are making, and it's not necessarily the developers, it's the publishers and the people who are running this show over them, like all
yeah.
that overhead. We know how much money you're getting, so we know that sometime $100 million hit, it's not going to affect your bottom line. You're making
Right,
$2 to $3 billion or whatever the case may be a minute, bro. Like, you know, like so, or a year or
yeah,
something like that. So, um, I don't know, you know.
yeah. All right, well we'll leave it there. There's more in the interview if you guys want to go check it out. It's on Eurogamer. It's in 2 parts. It's definitely worth a read if you want to give it a look. But yeah, let's move on, Montreal, to our next story, which is Bungie. So the ex Bungie developer, he was the director of Marathon for a period of time. Chris Barrett is suing Bungie and Sony for, quote, falsely destroying his reputation, and he has filed a lawsuit for this. So there's a few quotes in here that I'm going to read. Um, so quote, he's filing this against Sony for deliberately destroying his reputation by falsely and publicly insinuating they had investigated Barrett and found he had engaged in sexual misconduct. Um, they did not care that none of it was true. They had blatant motivations for their brazen scheme, only wanting to shift blame for and deflect attention away from their massive business failures. And to achieve those corporate objectives, they were willing to sacrifice Barrett. This is from the lawsuit. Barrett was never asked whether he had engaged in inappropriate sexual conduct, whether he ever sent inappropriate sexual or pornographic materials to a coworker, or whether he ever retaliated against a coworker for rebuffing his advances or discriminated against a female colleague on the basis of her sex. Barrett was not asked those questions because Barrett did not engage in and has not been accused of any such conduct. They then completed the Machiavellian trifecta by providing wildly misleading statements to Bloomberg designed to deflect blame for Sony's poorly performing $3.6 billion acquisition of Bungie and delays in video game production by casting shade on Barrett for his role on Marathon and shift blame for their own public Me Too problems by falsely insinuating that the accusations of severe misconduct had been directed at Barrett when they had not. Barrett has been the subject of harassment and public ridicule, has lost friends and professional opportunities, and has seen relationships with family strained. His lifelong dream of launching his own video game company, once within reach for a respected designer of multiple legendary games, has been crushed, end quote. And he also alleges that they fired him to avoid giving him what I don't know if this was specifically all for him, but a $45 million payment. They wanted to avoid paying him $45 million. I'm assuming it's some kind of bonus. That isn't a massive amount of money for a single developer to get on a project, but I would not be surprised if that's not outside the realm of realism. But yeah, so Montreal, I mean, what do you think of all this?
Um, I didn't know all this was going on.
Yeah,
uh,
it's a lot.
I mean, if he's innocent, man, fight. Like,
Yeah,
I I this reminds me of that one story that we it was like when we first started doing the podcast. I forgot who it was. You remember that person where he was just an awkward person, but he wasn't being trying to be sexually awkward or anything like that. And
Yeah.
like he got casted on and or he got cast out and people were shaming him and everything. Then it came out like he wasn't really doing that type of stuff. It kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of that. Um I do take allegations very seriously on both ends. Um I
Mhm.
think even if you especially like, sexual allegations or anything to do with like pedophilia allegations or anything like that. To me, being blamed about that shit or having been accused of that is already like you're
Yeah.
done. No matter how much you can like prove that you didn't do it, it
Mhm.
would take a it's going to take a you can prove to the will of God that I did not do all this or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But to a lot of people, man, that image is oh, you remember he did this, and it's like, well, it's proof that he didn't do that. Well, I didn't hear that, so fuck him. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like and it's hard to get that image out of people's heads, and I understand it. Like that's a very very sensitive topic, for anybody, and and yeah, like I mean, you know, I'm not going to say the creator's name, but one of the creators that we used to like, got accused of something of that nature, and
Yeah.
uh I don't even talk about that creator anymore with other people because of what happened. But it's just like
Mhm.
I guess there are two different stories to that side, and
Yeah.
me personally, I don't agree with one side of it, so I don't choose not to engage with it. So it's just like just from that example, even though in that example that was a clear, that person whatever said what they did,
Right. Right.
but just to give that example of that, it's very controversial and everything of that nature. So yeah,
Yeah, and I don't I mean, I wasn't following this before this happened really, so
yeah,
I don't know a whole lot about the specific situation, but if I mean, filing a lawsuit though, I mean, they probably feel pretty confident that they have some kind of case here. You know, otherwise I don't think they would um go forward with this necessarily. So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, Sony and Bungie, like, man, they better have specific examples to demonstrate what they were talking about here. I think part of it though, some of this is a little vague, and I do think it's going to be a little difficult for them to prove per se. Is talking about deflecting blame for Sony's poor performance. With the $3.6 billion acquisition, it's like, how do you prove that in court? From Barrett's perspective, I don't know. Or these like insinuations that he, was, you know, participating in social like sexual misconduct and stuff, and pressuring female colleagues and stuff, things
yeah. I
like that.
mean,
It's like,
because I'm trying to look for it, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
yeah,
a lot of people said there was like a story on Bloomberg where he was texting low level female employees
hmm
and asking them to do truth or dare. I don't. We didn't cover this. I don't.
yeah,
This seemed like something we would have covered, but I don't know. Continue. I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, when did that happen? How long ago is that?
I'm trying to look for the date. A lot of people were just saying like this is what happened. They keep mentioning the Bloomberg article about him and
Gotcha.
everything like that. And I'm trying to find that article. But yeah,
Well,
you can
that's what
keep
he
talking.
references though. He said providing wildly misleading statements to Bloomberg designed
Mm,
to deflect blame. So he's directly referencing that article actually, I think, in the lawsuit potentially. Um so I don't know. I
okay,
mean,
so
well,
it looks like this article was
yeah.
written. Hold on, I gotta do the fucking bot check. Looks like this article was written on or at least updated in August. Yeah, so it was last updated August 28th by Jason Schreier.
Okay.
Yeah, top director at Bungie was fired after misconduct investigation. And
Yeah.
yeah, it mentions like the text messages and stuff in there and everything of that nature. So,
Yeah, so he's basically saying, Barrett's saying that Schreier was fed false information.
yeah, because we all know Schreier gets his stuff from, like sources inside or whatever the case may
Right.
be. So,
Right. So somebody at Sony and or Bungie
mhm,
fed Jason specifically incorrect information that he then reported on, but
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Jason's a pretty strict journo. He's the type that wouldn't publish shit like that without multiple sources. So I don't know. It would
Yeah,
need to be
exactly.
it would need to be pretty planned on Sony's side and Bungie's side, and to me. But so I don't know. I guess we'll follow this. We'll certainly be I'll keep an eye on this for sure, and we'll see what kind of comes of it. Obviously, these types of things take a long time to play out, so we probably won't hear anything about it for a long time. Um, but yeah, I mean. If true, I mean this is if Barrett's side of this is true, you know, what he's claiming is true. I mean, this is fucking crazy, you know. Um, $45 million is a lot of money. And that might have been part of a retention deal as part of the acquisition, you know, potentially.
Yeah,
That's why
I
the
think
acquisition.
because I
Yep.
want to say he was one of the founders. I don't say one of the founders, but one of the top executives in Bungie.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, I think he was a director of multiple games over there.
okay,
So,
yeah,
yeah. But yeah, 45 million. I mean, you know, because a huge amount of the 3.6 billion was retention specifically for current employees. That wasn't part of the cost to purchase Bungie. It was for retaining the current employees. So yeah, 45 million of that. I mean, for a high level director, you know, I could see that potentially, for sure. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on this one.
yeah,
All right, moving on. Our next story. This is a minor story, but I mean, we are kind of a Xenoblade Chronicles podcast at this point, so we're just gonna embrace the meme. And it's official: Nintendo now owns 100% of Monolith Soft. So they didn't actually own all of Monolith Soft. I mean, they've had a huge stake in them for a long time. But in 2007, they purchased 80% of the shares from Namco, and then they went up to 96% in 2011, and that's where they've been since then. But they purchased the remaining 4% from the company founders, Hirohide Sugiura, Tetsuya Takahashi, and Yasuyuki Hone. I can't
yeah. They
if
still own.
I probably mispronounced those, but you know I did my best.
Yeah,
But yeah, they own 4%.
like a
Still in,
symbolic 4%. Yeah,
and they still so they've now transferred that over to Nintendo. So this is a full first party team, and I mean it was already that, but you know now Nintendo fully owns Monolith Soft, so um, you know tells you that they at least to some degree they value this company a lot. For sure that they want to have full ownership. But Montreal, the thing I wanted to key on is I went to the games page for Monolith Soft's
yeah,
website. And dude, man, we've been talking about this for a long time, right? Like how they're Nintendo's like you know special forces team or ace in the hole. And Jesus Christ, they are just like absolute monsters. The shit they've worked on. They worked on Breath of the Wild. They worked on Tears of the Kingdom, Splatoon 2, Splatoon 3, Project X Zone from back in the day. They worked on Legend of Zelda Link to the Past on 3DS, Skyward Sword, Pikmin 3, the original Splatoon, going all the way back to Super Smash Bros. Brawl. They worked on that as well. So I mean, this is a very important team for Nintendo. Um, I think that much is clear.
yeah. Yeah. I don't really have too much else to say. Like, this is actually crazy how many games they worked on. Yeah, they are. I consider them like elite level Navy SEAL fucking development team. Like when the shit's
Games
about to
having
get
problems, send in
yeah,
Monolith Soft.
give them a call, and they just
Yeah, yeah,
they
man.
just come in and like push people off the
Yeah,
station.
yeah,
Like we'll
yeah.
take it over from here.
100%, dude. Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. This is crazy. I mean, and all of these games are like 95% of these games are successful. I mean, the one game they have that's like
Yeah,
a stain is Final Fantasy VII Dire Cerberus, which I fucking
Dirge
hate
of
that game.
Cerberus. Yeah,
Dirge of Cerberus, which I fucking hate that game. But I don't know. A lot of these other games, I didn't play the Xeno Saga games, unfortunately. But from what I hear from people, they love Xenosaga. So,
yep. And then Bait and Katos, of
yeah,
course, 1 and 2.
yeah, obviously. Uh, So yeah, I don't know, man. They have a very stellar record that I think is underrated. Like this is why I think they're one of the most underrated studios in gaming history, in my
Yeah,
opinion. Like
yeah.
the way y'all look at FromSoft and like other teams is the way I look at Monolith Soft. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think they're like a top tier
Oh
fucking
yeah,
studio, man.
yeah.
Everything they touch is gold.
Well, dude, they worked on a Dragon Ball game too.
Yeah, I see.
Dragon Ball Kai: The Saiyan Attack. I don't remember this game, but it's making me interested. Dragon Ball Kai. Like, what kind of game was it? Was it like a?
It looks like an
Oh, it's an
RPG.
RPG, dude.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Oh man. Okay. Of course, that makes total sense for these guys. Yeah. What
It
a
has a
man.
has a reputation of being really good too, by the way.
I mean, does that surprise you at all? Maybe I'll check this out someday. Yeah, that's
It's
pretty sweet.
actually like a full on like RPG, like 3 character setup,
Yeah.
turn-based RPG.
Yep. So yeah, I know they made a lot of games, and they're a very successful team. And I mean, they have a good home with Nintendo. I'm sometimes I get a little like I'm a little sad that we don't get to see their full potential on like PlayStation or PC and stuff, like what they could do with like full, no hardware limits. But I will say that this relationship with Nintendo has absolutely resulted in a lot of great video games. So it's you kind of give and you take there, you take the compromise. I think I'd rather them uh be in a situation where they're able to make great games versus potentially be a cross-platform team that maybe bites off more than they could chew potentially. You never know what would actually happen if they were, able to make games on PlayStation or something like that. Um so yeah, I think this is a good relationship, and glad that Nintendo has solidified it. So, all right, let's move on to our final story for the week. Is Rocksteady has announced that Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League support is ending in January. The final update is going to release Deathstroke as the last new character that they're adding to the game, and then they are also working on an offline mode for the game so that people can play this game. You know, if and when the servers do go down, which they're not planning to do in the short term. So the game will still be playable online, but they want to prepare it for when it's not. Um, so yeah, I mean, we got another game on Charles. This is the third game we've talked about now in 2 weeks that is didn't even make it to a year of being out before it shut down. Basically, a live service game.
Yeah, I mean, oh no, man. What you want me to say about this game?
I mean, we didn't play it, right? So I don't know how like quote unquote bad it truly is.
I don't think the game is
But
bad. I will say that the game never looked bad. I think it's not what people wanted. You see what I'm saying? Like,
mm-hmm.
uh,
Right.
it looks
Definitely not what
hey,
I wanted out of Rocksteady. That's why I didn't play it.
It looks like a Fortnite game.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, man. That's just me personally. Like I didn't want that type of game, so I didn't bother checking it out. And then on top of that, it was like an online only game, I believe. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it was me personally. It just wasn't the game for me, and apparently a lot of other people too. That's why they're shutting the game down early. So yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's just I don't know how many, like when is the lesson going to be learned with these games though? WB has this disaster on their hands, and then they have one of the most successful single player games of all time in Hogwarts Legacy last year, and their CEO is coming out and is like, we're gonna do more live service games, because clearly that's working well for you. It's just I don't like when does the lesson get learned? It just doesn't seem like it sinks in with these guys.
Yeah, I think people just look at the endless money sink of like Fortnite and like Genshin Impact and all these other games like that, and they really, really want that success. They really, really want that money, and I don't. Some of the games they try it with though, it's just like, you really thought Suicide Squad was going to be that game for you?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like I don't know, man. It's just weird. Yeah, I actually I don't know. I mean, because then even if you do it successfully, right? Like Overwatch, for example, I feel so bad for that. For I feel bad for Blizzard because this is the second time this shit has happened to them. You know that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to get into that. But anyway, this game is crazy. I don't know what you want. I don't know what they wanted from this shit, man. That's how I'm stuttering so much because I just don't know who walked into the boardroom and was just like, yeah, Suicide Squad, but live action. Everyone's like, yes, and it's so out of touch with reality. But this game was made or started being developed 8 years ago, so it's like,
God,
I guess, man.
that's so fucking crazy to think about, dude. Because yeah, it's just like oh, it's so frustrating to think about because it's like you take one of your most successful single player studios in Rocksteady and you want them to make a live service game. And maybe I don't remember if they were the ones who decided they wanted to make a live service game or not, but I
I
remember
think it was Rocksteady who actually decided they wanted to make the live service
yeah,
game.
but I remember at some point though it wasn't a DC game though. It wasn't like a DC IP and they just decided to staple Suicide Squad onto an
Oh,
existing
okay.
game they were working on. I remember that
That actually makes sense
coming
then.
out. And yeah, and that I mean, man, like that never works. You can't just do that. You can't design a game from the ground up and then decide to change completely what it is, in the middle of development. Like that never works out. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a frustrating situation. I mean, we know they're working on potentially something new. I think coming up is maybe a new Batman game potentially. So I mean, it seems like they're going back to what they do best, but I mean, do we know what they do best anymore at this point? Because I think most of the people that were at Rocksteady during the Batman trilogy are all gone now, after this game. So it's like, what even is Rocksteady as a studio at this point?
Exactly. I don't know, man. It's just becoming a very unsustainable model. So
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we will we'll let that one go to the graveyard. Unfortunately, it is cool that they're releasing Deathstroke though. That's a cool playable character for sure.
yeah.
Um, in a Batman game or DC game. So, but all right, Montreal. Well, that's all we got today. Oh, actually, I forgot. We were going to talk about Arcane season 2.
Yeah.
We both finished it. So let's knock this out real quick. We don't need to get super
Yes.
crazy with it.
You can do the rigmarole for people who don't want to listen to the spoilers if they haven't
Sure,
watched
yeah.
it.
Let's go ahead and do that. Actually, I think that's a good call. So, for those of you, if you like this episode, please like the show, review the show, subscribe to the show, whatever feed you're listening to it on, and please subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at ThunderNut01. Shows at the Players Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And for those of you who don't want to hear our spoiler-filled thoughts on Arcane Season 2, that'll be it for us, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next week. All right. Now, for those of you who are remaining, who want to hear what we think of Arcane Season 2. I mean, Montreal, you finished it. How long ago did you finish the show?
Like Thanksgiving. I finished it on Thanksgiving.
Okay. I think that was around the same time I did. Also, I think I finished it that weekend. Or actually, no, it was last week. Think about it. I think it was last week in the middle of the week, some point. But yeah, I don't know. So the beginning part of the season for me, I liked it. I actually liked it. It felt slow, but I think it was appropriate. It kind of followed the path, you would think would happen after what happened at the end of season 1. And then I just feel like season 2 just went completely went off the reservation, around episode 4 or 5. And then it never really recovered for me. I think the final episode is really good from a visual standpoint. Like, it's a great episode to watch, but I don't think the story came together by the end, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think they wrapped it up in a really cool way. They did this, well, one part, I think I fell asleep on one part, which was
Yeah.
uh when Echo, Heimerdinger, and Chase found the Arcane and it transported them back in time. Because I went to another episode and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is going on here? But yeah, they were already like transported back into time or whatever.
No, and that
Or,
episode with Echo, and Heimerdinger was really cool. Actually, that was episode 7,
yeah.
I think.
Okay.
That
I
was a
actually
really
did
cool.
like that.
Yeah, it was cool. It kind of gave you a peek into like an alternate universe. However, the problem I have with the whole thing is that it kind of introduced a multiverse into this universe now, and it's like, and this feels like Riot coming in to me, like coming in and saying, "Hey, this isn't the League of Legends canon, so we're gonna need you to imply that somehow in the plot that this isn't actually the League of Legends canon." So that's what they did, because now it's clear that there's multiple dimensions in this universe and there's infinite ways the timeline could play out. So this isn't like the League of Legends proper canon Arcane. Like Arcane doesn't represent League canon. And to me, like, that's kind of disappointing. I don't know. Did you take that the same way, or am I reading into this too much?
I think you're reading into it a little bit too much. I think they actually did confirm that the end of Arcane is like canon.
Okay. All right. So Heimer's actually dead. Like Heimerdinger's dead.
Yeah, but they're not gonna kill the character off. So this actually happened before.
I mean, delete him from the game. He's dead, right?
So I was just about to say that they can't do that because this actually happened in lore with Gameplay. Gameplay lore wise, he died and they actually disabled the character. And people were pissed about it.
Yeah.
But then lore wise, he came back to life again, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Like Victor lore wise is dead.
Yeah.
But
right. Him too. Yeah.
But in the game, you can obviously still play him and everything like that, which I think is really cool. So I think it's like really cool to see. I actually did, like I said, I didn't mind the ending. I don't like. I really wish they could have just kept. I think this is just a personal thing. I don't like the whole, because Jinx is the favorite character, now we're gonna make her the good guy. Like I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I feel like she got away with a lot of shit, bro. And I understand. I actually forgot in season 1 that she got the shimmer injection, so that's why she's able to move like super fucking fast. So I'm like, why is this bitch able to move like that? She does not move like that in the game. I guess when you get a kill, she does move like that.
She does.
But like,
yeah.
It was just weird. Also, I didn't like how they didn't go full Warwick, like wolf face Warwick. They did the whole half man, half face thing. I didn't like that at all. I wanted to see like full blown Warwick with a fucking wolf face. The face of a dog.
I hated the way his arc played out, dude. Like, I got nothing out of him in Vi and Jinx. Like,
yeah.
At the end of it, he's just this like husk, like this emotionless husk being controlled by Victor, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. I think his character arc deserved way more than what it got. Yeah. So I mean, and then Jinx, for instance, right? Like for years, she's been this anarchist. She's been this person who just doesn't give a fuck. Yeah. We really didn't know, and now they made her like a good guy. And
she's also supposed to be crazy with like a split personality and shit. And like, and they had that in season 1, and it's just completely gone in season 2. Like,
also she blew up half the fucking country and killed your fucking mom, Kate. Like, Kate's character arc is so fucking weird to me.
Insane. She's all over the place, dude. It's nuts. She has like 5 different arcs in the season, man. It's fucking nutty what they did with Kate. And it's weird because some of it I liked. I don't hate all of it, but I prefer the early part of the season with her more than anything because it makes sense. Of course she wants to fucking kill Jinx. She fucking terrorist bombed the council chamber and killed her mom. Like, yeah, duh.
And it's like,
holy shit.
because you sleep with Vi, oh, that's okay now? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
right. Like, yeah, Vi doesn't want you to kill. No, and dude, that's the thing. Early in the season, Vi was like, yeah, kill Jinx if if we run into her or whatever, and like take your shot or whatever she said. And then there was that confrontation underground by the statue or whatever.
God, bro. That's the one. I think that's the episode that kind of like
well, that's where it turns. That's where it all turns. Because up to that point, I think everything's pretty good. But then everything kind of goes out of control at that point, because then Mbessa comes in and Kate gets influenced by Mbessa, and like there's this weird arc with the two of them where like she's training with Mbessa and stuff, and like and she's like occupying the underground, which is something I feel like Kate would never do. It's like, I don't know, man. It just went out of control at a certain point. And I think everything with Victor fucking sucks. I hated everything around Victor in season 2. His arc is so boring, pointless. Like at the beginning of the season, right? He comes out of the fucking gloop orb or whatever, and he's like talking to Jace, and he's like, he asks Jace why he saved him. He's like mad at Jace because Jace saved him, and he's like, what was the assistant's name? I don't even remember her name, but the girl who like got sucked in by the
I think her name's Sky. I think
Sky or whatever her name is. Yeah. And he's like, we should have never touched this thing. It killed her or whatever. And he leaves, and like leaves Jace like with his thoughts. And then by the end of the season, he's trying to assimilate the world and like turn everybody into a hive mind. I don't understand where, like, there's like a huge disconnect between that moment and then everything else Victor does for the rest of the season. Obviously this, whatever this thing is, this material is clearly a corrupting agent to whoever is involved, but they don't explain it ever really, at all. And then you've got Jace, who's clearly corrupted by it later in the season, and it's just kind of like they keep showing his arm, and it's got like those like fucking veins or whatever going through it, and it's like they don't do anything with that though. I just like, nothing ever comes of it. It's just implied.
I think they. Well, you remember he fell down that trench, right? You remember he went back into he was like transported to.
He went into the future. He went into
the future.
He went to a different dimension in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, in the future, and I think he just learned how to. He was there for. I took it as he was there for years, and
yes, I agree.
And he just learned how to do stuff with his arm and with his leg and stuff like that, and eventually he learned how to climb out and all other shit like that. So that's how I took it as. I didn't really think too hard into that part. I understand what you mean though. Like you want a little bit more substance to that.
There's just too many plots, I think is what I'm getting at. There's too many subplots and too many narrative arcs, and they couldn't wrap them all up,
This is where I think the Riot influence came in. I think the Riot influence is like, you're not getting to season 3. Wrap it up. That's where I think the Riot influence came in. Right. I don't think it was the multiverse thing. I think it was like, you're not getting to season 3. Well, sorry, buddy. Sorry, pal.
Which maybe fucked it all up, right? They had an outline in their head, and maybe it went to 3 seasons or even 4 potentially, and they just had to squeeze it all in here. And
I can easily see this going to 3 to 4 seasons. I don't like Mbessa's storyline. I don't like how that shit ends. And I don't like what's her daughter's name? Fuck.
Oh my god, not Medarda. That's their last name. That's the family name. Mel. I think it's Mel.
Yeah, Mel. I don't like that whole arc. That whole arc ended, and it was just like done. What, bro? So
she disappears for like 4 episodes. The daughter, by the way, like, and then all of a sudden she comes out and she's like a fucking light mage. Like. What the fuck?
Okay, so can we talk about the Black Rose?
Yeah.
That is not in any League of Legends thing. This is a totally new thing, by the way.
So they just made it up. Okay.
They just made it the fuck up. I thought it was going to be Void. I thought this was going to be like Evelyn speaking, because Evelyn has the power to like seduce people or like get them to do what she wants them to do. So I thought it was like, oh, maybe this is like going to tie into Evelyn and the Void and all that other shit. And it was just like, no. They didn't even touch the Void, by the way. Like, what is this Black Rose shit? I've never heard of these people before. And maybe it's like buried deep in the League of Legends lore or whatever. But like, I never heard of this shit before, bro. I swear to God, and and it really, really made me upset. Like, okay. So the Black Rose is a secret organization. It is buried deep into the thing that's led by LeBlanc. I do remember that. I just didn't know it was called Black Rose.
Okay.
But we didn't see LeBlanc in there.
Right.
Like the people that control Black Rose is LeBlanc, Vladimir, Elise, and or champions of the Black Rose are LeBlanc, Vladimir, Elise, and Cassiopeia. We didn't see none of these people.
Yeah. We
You
just
know what
saw
I'm
some
saying?
random like I don't even know. They were like a faceless
Exactly.
enemy. Yeah. It's like
And what makes it even crazier is they're offshoot of the Noxus organization. So it's just like but I understand Noxus has this thing where it's like they don't really like it's almost like the Russian, like the real life Russian army, to where like they have the private armies, like whoever's the best, you get our say, and that's kind of how the Noxus thing kind of runs. It's not really like
yeah.
you're in Noxus. It's like you work with us. If you're the best, then you're the strongest. Whoever the strongest is gets our respect and works with this type of
Well, it
situation.
was also wasn't it implied at some point that Mbessa had like lost favor or something in Noxus? Like all
Yeah, I
her
think
shit had collapsed and stuff. Like she didn't have her estate anymore and stuff. Like
they said that I want to say they said it's because of her fucking like because of Mel, because she had Mel,
yeah.
and Mel was out
Okay.
of wedlock or something like that. But
Gotcha.
um I don't know, man. That was weird. Like also that as well. Like how did she lose it? Like was it because okay, so it says that after the battle of Hanar.
See,
Oh
but
no, yeah,
none of this is explained in the show. You're having to read a
yeah,
wiki,
yeah,
to
but like
find out. Like
but even over this, like they don't really tell you what she lost it to. And I
yeah.
thought it was because, and that's another thing too, right? Because if you know the lore, there was this huge war where Noxus invaded Ionia,
Yeah.
and Ionia had to defend against that. It wasn't because that she lost that battle or
Right.
that huge war or whatever. Because they never, I don't think they ever went against like way back in the day when it gets Demacia. I think they either lost or got pushed back, or it was like a stalemate. But they
Mm,
did invade Ionia, and they lost against Ionia. Ionia defended themselves against them. And the only reason I remember that is because Shin talks about it, Jin talks about it, Yasuo talks about it, and like Akali talks about it. Like how bad that battle, the shit that they had to do to like just win. And a lot of people were mad at Shin because he wouldn't take like super countermeasures for it or whatever the case may be. Like
yeah.
Jin in particular he always yells at Shin and says like, we could have done more if you let me do what I do best. Like Shin, because Jin is fucking crazy ass motherfucker. So
He's my
um
favorite, man.
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's what I'm saying. We don't know. I don't know the timeline for this as well. Um so I don't know, man. Like this is why I'm kind of upset with this. Like, right, you have billions of dollars, bro. Billions.
Right.
Uh you can't just do this and then say, well, that's it, guys. Have fun. Like you created the cinematic universe now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
um I don't know where you go from here. Like I don't really care about the spin-offs. I want to know what the other lands are doing. And it's like that's
Yeah.
me as a League of Legends player. But like I guess if you're just like Arcane, you do want to know what's happening with the side characters or whatever the case may be, right? But like there are so many other characters they didn't touch on in Zon. Like for instance, like fucking uh oh my god, not his blank. The spider guy, what's his name?
Oh, Spider Guy. Fuck.
Urgot.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
crab or spider guy if you want to call him that. But yeah, like he fights Echo. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
I want to know stuff like that and everything like that. And like yeah, I'm glad this is like your your timeline, but like, where does this take place in the League of Legends user? What timeline does it take place in the League of Legends universe? So
Yeah.
it's just like, I don't
Well,
know.
also, I
To
just
me,
think I'm a
it's
little wary of this too because they like killed off a couple characters, and like you said, like, is this just like comic? Are we just gonna go into comic book land where like Heimerdinger is gonna just show up at some point and he's alive again? Oh, he's alive in a different show or something. It's like, I, if that's where we're going, then this is a lot more disappointing than I thought it was. I don't know because I can't stand that shit in comic books. Like if a character's fucking dead, they're dead. Like we don't need to revive them or contrive some reason to bring them back because people want them back. Like
mhm.
that's not good writing to me. So I don't know. I just overall I'm like every storyline, like I feel like Jace's whole storyline too just kind of fell flat too. He was too connected to Victor. I don't feel like he was a really strong character in season 1, I think. I felt like, and um they just completely lost that for me in season 2. Like because he was also gone for several episodes too, and then he just shows up and he's trying to kill Victor. It's just like, and nobody knows what the fuck he's doing. And because there's a lot of plot threads in this season, and they lose some of them too. Like in the early season, you remember the memorial they were trying to do, where Sin
Mhm.
shows up and they try to kill they're trying to kill people and stuff, and that sparks the like martial law and all that, where they like take control of the underground. um that whole arc died immediately. Like it was stopped being about Zahn versus Piltover, and it became these like macro things that I feel like were completely a lot less interesting. Like it became about Victor and Mbessa, and like they were kind of the driving forces that everybody was kind of working against, and then eventually Zahn and Piltover come together to stop Victor, even though it's like Piltover treated the people of Zahn like absolute shit for the entire season. We're basically occupying them as a military force. And it's like that's just dropped at the end of the season. It's like, oh, Victor's gonna kill everybody and turn us all into a hive mind, so we gotta come together, guys. And it's like, no. Like I don't like it just shouldn't resolve that quickly. I don't know. It just there's just a lot of those threads that I feel like didn't work for me. The Vi and Jinx stuff worked to some degree, specifically between them. The Warwick stuff not really as much. But I think the two of them did ultimately work for me by the end of the season, but I don't feel like we got enough time with them, unfortunately. Like I just feel like again, there's too many plot threads, right? Like I feel like they kind of
Yeah.
got pushed to the side for a while, when they are kind of the main characters of the damn show. Um, you know, so
I mean, and then the whole thing with the this is, dude. This is gonna sound so bad, bro. It's almost like a fuck them kids moment. I hate when kids are like an integral part of the story. I fucking hate it, bro.
yeah,
Sometimes it makes the storyline so irrational because a fucking kid is involved. And like the
yeah,
little girl, when she dies, like
yeah. I didn't
I was just
feel a whole
like,
lot.
yeah, I was just like, oh no. Well, at least
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about that anymore. Like, I don't know. She was like an annoying subplot, in my opinion. Like, I don't know.
Well, they didn't do enough with it. They didn't do enough with it. Like there was something interesting there that they were setting up, but they didn't. It was rushed. Like it. I don't feel like they did enough with it. Ultimately.
Yeah, they
Um.
just I really feel like Riot came in and just axed it because I feel like she was gonna grow up to be like Jinx and then eventually have to turn on Jinx and be like, you're actually
Yeah.
a fucking monster, like
Yeah.
because the whole thing with Jinx, right, was like everyone that I come in contact with dies or they
Yeah.
turn against me in some kind of thing, and I wanted to see that theme continue, but um they kind of like nerfed her craziness. You know what I'm saying? Like they nerfed it. I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, I guess she's not
Completely.
crazy anymore. Like it's
Yeah.
not there anymore. Like when she was like flying over Zahn in the battle, I was expecting her to just blow everybody up and like fuck all this shit. But then she just joins the fight, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay,
Right.
cool.
Well, she
and then
shows up.
Echo,
She shows up, and she's like super cool. She's got her own like fucking blimp for some fucking reason, or balloon.
yeah,
Like,
And it's like I understand Echo always had a crush on Jinx, but like
yeah,
he hated her by the end of season 1. He was like, I am there is no way we can come back from what just happened. You
yeah,
know?
right.
And then like it's like, oh, actually, in the other universe, she's my girlfriend. It's like I like that aspect of it. I like that she's like really cool in that universe. I like seeing a Sane Jinx and Echo be with each other. But like,
Not totally sane though. There's still see that's the thing. We got more of like an insane Jinx in the alternate dimension where she's like she has a doll of Vi that she talks to or whatever.
oh yeah, that's
And it's
true.
like
Yeah,
there's none of that with the current timeline Jinx. Like I don't know. Like it's like they forgot that was a plot point, you know?
yeah, because they sucked all that time into like that. So I
Cause
mean,
dude, do you remember in season 1 at the end of season 1 where she's like talking to herself and shit in her hideout and stuff and they have those like crazy drawings she would do that she's talking to and stuff? Like
yeah, bro, like
where did all that
all that,
go? You know?
bro, like all that stuff is just gone. Exactly, like all that is gone. And for anyone like still listening and worried about this takes place before the Noxian invasion of Ionia. Because not Swain, I'm sorry, Singe has been not he's just became the leader of the chemical warfare at the end of this thing. He
Yeah.
used chemical warfare against, Ionia. Anyway, but I had to look that shit up though. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I do not have high hopes for the spinoffs. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
I'm with you, probably, ultimately.
I think they should have just paid the studio who was doing this. Should have just paid them, man. This
Yeah.
this would have this definitely would have recouped your losses. Like you would have recouped tenfold off this.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't understand it, to be honest with you. It was one of the most popular shows last year or 2 years ago. Maybe it just takes too long to make. And that in that case, try to expand the team, put more money into it so it can come out yearly. But yeah, man, like I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say. Like it was a disappointing season. I think there's some good points. I think the animation is excellent, continued to be
Oh
excellent.
yeah. Yeah. The
Um
quality never failed throughout the entire
yeah,
show.
I agree. And I think even some of the music selection was pretty good in certain spots. But yeah, just the narrative fell short though, ultimately at the end of the day. Um like cuz yeah, I think that Echo episode was probably the one of the best ones of the season. Um
Yeah, I agree.
but it came at a point in time when the show didn't have time to tell that story, you know? It's like this I'm like sitting here, it's like end of episode 6 and I'm like, "Man, there's a lot of plot threads I got to wrap up here in 3 episodes. Man, I don't know if they're going to have time to do all this." And then we get a full episode of Echo and I'm like by the end of that episode I'm like, "Okay, so we only have 2 episodes now to wrap up all the things that I thought they couldn't do in 3 episodes." It's like, so it's like they take a whole episode for this with Echo, this side story with Echo, and it's like it's a great episode, but yeah, I just don't feel like they didn't have time for that though from a storytelling standpoint. So because yeah, it was kind of cool to see the side, see Silco come back a little bit in that episode and Vander and stuff. But I think that's the thing ultimately that this season was missing was that central villain like Silco that was kind of the center of gravity for everything happening. There really wasn't anybody that was that. They tried to make Victor that at a certain point. It didn't really work. They tried to make Ambessa that at certain points of the season. It didn't really work. They even tried to make Kate that at a certain point. It didn't really work for me. It's like, so um, yeah, I feel like they didn't have that like central enemy that everybody was kind of working against, and I think the show was missing that. Like Silco was a great character in season 1, like he's an awesome fucking character and I loved it, everything
Yeah.
he was a part of. So
I
just wish
actually
that
like
season did.
like I like Silco and Vander.
Yeah,
And yeah, they just threw those characters away in my opinion.
yeah, fair enough. Anything else you
Uh,
want to say
uh,
on it? Or
um so person that was talking,
Yeah.
Black Rose, that's LeBlanc.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I forgot LeBlanc can like she can do duplicates of herself, and I guess she can turn herself into other people, like almost like the Shadow Clone Jitsu type situation. So she's a
Yeah.
witch, so she can do stuff like that. So she is the leader of the Black Rose. So all those iterations of like that person changing and everything, that was just LeBlanc.
Okay.
But it's weird, like you said, that they didn't do her in her original outfit. They did it
Yeah.
through all that. So you
Well,
couldn't
it's
even
also not
tell
clear that it's her,
exactly. Like, well, okay, so it was one point where I think Mbessa stabbed her or somebody stabbed somebody. That person that they stabbed was LeBlanc, I
Yeah.
believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I never took out of the show that was LeBlanc ever. Like that never crossed my mind. So I
Yeah,
don't feel
it
like the
was
show made it that clear, honestly.
yeah, it was just you have to know LeBlanc's lore. I don't really know LeBlanc's lore like that, but apparently she has the power to where she can be in multiple places at once because of the Black Rose power and the Black Rose organization. Um, she has that
Okay.
kind of power. She doesn't lose her power until like Swain gets very powerful within the Noxus organization and kind of like takes control and you know kind of not ousts her out, but like you're not as big as you used to be type shit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh yeah, that's where it is. So oh, also Mbessa's dead, but she's a new champion in League of Legends. So it's like
Yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to ask you about. Actually, is how many new champions out of this show do you think we're gonna get in League?
they definitely said Mel's coming for sure. She's the
Okay.
next champion to be revealed.
What about Mbessa's her sidekick, the dude with the spear or whatever?
I don't know. I don't think he had too many powers to where they possibly could, man. They could. Uh yeah, I can definitely see them doing that. I thought they were gonna try I thought the girl was gonna be a new character, but she died. She doesn't have any power, so
Yeah.
um
Maybe the
I can I,
guy.
I
Maybe
can
the
see them doing
guy.
Silco. I can see them doing Silco or like
Oh, Silco would be cool.
yeah. Or
But
the other
what about
lady with
the
the lady with the
like
one arm.
that? Yeah, her or the rat dude that she killed.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess I can see that. I don't think he was that popular of a character though.
no, I know, but he kind of looks like he could have a cool move set, in the
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
He'd have an interesting design space. But yeah, the chick with the arm that Jinx built for her or whatever could be cool
yeah,
with the slots or whatever. That'd be an interesting thing to play around with potentially.
yeah.
So,
That would be a really interesting mechanic to
yeah,
play
she'd
around
be a
with
top laner for sure.
for sure, or a jungler like
Yeah,
Vi.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think
Also, Singed was disappointing as well.
yeah. We didn't get the singe that we get in video games, like how crazy he is.
Yeah,
Like we didn't get that
right.
singed. Also, I didn't know that that girl that he was doing was or not doing, but like trying to
Revive.
revive was Oriana.
Oh,
The orb, the girl, the chick with
okay,
the orb, that's
okay.
Oriana.
Yeah. That's weird. Okay.
The only reason I know that is because the little thing that the tune that he plays with the little um ballerina thing, the little ballerina toy, that's the tune that she plays when you play her dance emote, and she does that exact thing.
What a fucking nerd.
Yeah, I know,
That you
right?
know that. That you fucking know that. Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Okay. Well, fair enough. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see a couple champs come out of the show though, for sure. Um It'd be interesting. Silco would be cool. I just don't know what his power is though.
that's true. I don't know either.
Like he never really fought per se. Like trying to think of but I'm sure they could figure something out. Maybe Vander, like pre Warwick, would be interesting
Maybe.
potentially.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, anything else you want to say on the show?
Nope, that's it. Yeah, so yeah, so I'm sorry, y'all. Oriana, she's gonna get the same power as Victor, but she's not gonna be she's gonna be more robotic than Victor was, if that makes any sense. So that is Oriana. So
Okay.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Oh well. So yeah, but I mean, if anything else to say right about it, they're just not gonna do anything else with this franchise anymore. I mean, just make fucking movies at this point. If you don't want to spend the money making seasons, I don't know.
That probably would make more sense for them ultimately. You could get more characters involved, probably have more grander plots. Like clearly they wanted to tell a very grand story here, and I don't. They just it took too much time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I understand wanting to do seasons, and I love seasons. Honestly, there is some stuff they could have left out. Certain episodes they could have left out. It could have been more streamlined, in my opinion. I really think during the midway of development of this season, right, like was like cut it in half or whatever the case may be. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, Montrell. Well, let's get the hell out of here. Like we mentioned earlier, we will have coverage of the Game Awards more than likely on Saturday. So look forward to that as well. If you guys want to hear our thoughts on the Game Awards announcements, which are going on right now. So, Montrell, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.